If we find ourselves using it.
Okay. Marianne, are you ready?
Yeah.
Yep, we're ready to go.
Thank you. Call this meeting to order. Please call roll.
Mr. Quigley?
Here.
Mr. Anto?
Here.
Ms. Knapp?
Here.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Start off with agenda changes. Trustee Toronto, do you have any changes?
Yes. Under maintenance. C2, it's tipmen, not tipperman.
That with 2 P's or just one?
2 P's and 2 N's.
Anything else?
No.
Trustee Knapp?
No.
The only thing I'd like to add is add for item 11, executive session for the purpose of pending litigation.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I have an item that can wait till next time, but I'm not sure with the board's permission, if we could add it. It's a, and I can pass it around for everyone to look at. It's just requesting whether or not the board would like to request a hearing on a liquor license for a local business. If you like, I can wait until next time.
Did Jerry do a check on to find out if we're...
Yep. It's a D1, D2.
Any...
I don't have any problem with it.
I don't have any problem just adding it. What's the business?
It's AF Burley Enterprises doing business as Wine and Canvas on Cameron Avenue.
Okay, that just came in.
Yes.
Is that okay, Trustee Knapp?
Yeah. And we're going to be able to look at it, right?
Right.
And that, where are we putting that?
9B, liquor license. Therefore, we'll go ahead and the agenda is accepted as modified. At this time, I'd go ahead and like to open it up for public comments regarding items not otherwise on the agenda. If anybody in the public would like to come forward to discuss a topic that's not currently on the agenda, please come forward, state your name and address.
Please.
Public comments, anything that's not on the agenda.
Yeah, do you want me to?
Please come forward, state your name and address.
We're just discussing what we should say. My name is Ray Strutner, and I live at 7761 Okalea Court, Lewis Center, Ohio. We were here 4 weeks ago on the 20th, and we discussed, debated, whatever you want to call it, an issue regarding the island on Okalea Court. And I think Jim Agan was here, and he made some statements that I disagreed with. And we would like some resolution. You know, we have one homeowner that's on the court but not in the development, the Nicoya development. That raises this issue all the time, and I would like to get some resolution as, okay, this is what it is, and we don't want to hear it anymore. We want it to remain natural, like we said. This was debated several years ago. I talked to Dick Gladman. He said, hey, you're right. He knows the developer. He talked to the developer, the county engineer, who I think the name was Schultz at the time, agreed, and everything was agreed on to remain natural, and it would be up to the 5 homeowners in Nicoya to maintain it. And I think somebody, I think maybe Lisa said she was going to drive by, make a drive-by the island. I don't know whether you did that or not.
I think we all did, possibly.
Yeah. And That's really what we're here for. After 4 weeks, we'd just like to have some resolution as to what is happening and decide.
Okay. Yeah, I think we were all waiting on to find out if there was any further response back from Mr. Reagan regarding discussions with you. I don't know if that took place or not as a homeowners after he left.
Yeah, really, Mr. Reagan has nothing to do with it.
Yeah, no, I
He's not
understand.
even in the same neighborhood.
He's not in the
right?
same
I completely
neighborhood.
understand
He's in the
that.
woods of Bell Canyon, not in the same neighborhood.
And one thing,
He's sort of like in Florida. I have a place in Florida, Fort Street, and we call them condo police down there. You know, he drives around this island all the time, and we don't know why. Anyway, that's what we're here for.
Well, it seemed to me, the island was just as though, as you described it, it was a natural area that was,
Yeah, and it
It
wasn't
built itself.
undergrowth this high. It's undergrowth this high. You
Yeah.
know, and
Mr.
that's-
Farrahay, did you look up the paperwork on that? You were gonna see if there was some wording.
Yeah, I did read through the zoning. I also went over there and took pictures, which I emailed Greg of you.
Good.
The gist of the zoning was that throughout the subdivision, Mr. Alden, I think Abrams,
Abrams,
his intentions were to maintain as many trees and natural growth as possible. If you look over there, the lots have more trees on each individual building lot than pretty much any lot in the township. They actually sited the houses individually on the lots to be able to maintain as many trees that were there to begin with, keep them. It doesn't specifically mention the court and the island in the court and what they're going to do with it, but from reading the rest of the zoning, they tried everywhere, even on the building lots, to maintain as many trees, and that was sort of a stipulation to the lot buyers that they had to maintain as many trees as possible when they built their house. So you would have to assume that the same was meant for the court. And when Mr. Gladman was here, when this issue came up 5 or 6 years ago, whenever it first came up, he said it was his understanding throughout the zoning hearings that, yes, it was supposed to be in its natural state. So that's the theory that zoning is operating on. And there's a couple similar ones. Rob found one over in the Woodstone subdivision, and I believe that the same is true on a couple of them up in the shores.
yeah, when I was going around looking myself, I noticed that one brought to your attention about the Woodstone area, that cul-de-sac up there. And I noticed that there's one there that's heavily vegetated in that area. Honestly, you as a homeowners are up there, and I personally, I think as long as you maintain somewhat of a standard from a safety issue, I'm fine with that. As you said, you are the residents there. You guys are the ones looking at it. I'm completely fine with that. I don't see anything that's compelling us to make us force you to make any changes of what you're currently doing.
and he hasn't been in contact with the township since that date, has he, Mr. Egan? That we know of?
I don't know. I don't know if Mr. Reagan's come in before or not.
He's been sent, but he's not mentioned it really in court.
Okay. So from that standpoint, looking at other areas within the township with a similar type of scenario, and the fact that you are the residents in that, I don't see any reason for us to.
Yeah, and one of the big issues, I think, was line of sight. And Frank and I were talking, and he was saying that on our island, you have total line of sight because there's no undergrowth. On the other Nicoya Island, on Nicoya Court, you don't have line of sight. They have evergreens and everything in the middle of the island, and you don't, they're right down to the ground and up. So from a safety standpoint, I think we are really better off than most other islands.
I would keep the poison ivy, control, that kind of thing.
But
What you say, I'm
The
sorry.
poison ivy and that, I would
Yeah.
keep that under.
Yeah.
Do they need to keep poison ivy in control?
I didn't see anything that would
Well, they cleaned it up the last time.
anybody's attention. I mean, there's no undergrowth to speak of. If there is, it's 6 inches high. There is a dead tree right in the center of it.
The You're having that tree taken down, right?
Yeah, he committed for 45 days, 21 days ago, and it's coming, he informed me, it's coming down Friday.
Okay, great.
I've had 3 removed in my property. The ash borer is just devastated. If you drive around our area, there's hundreds of trees that are dead, ash trees.
Right.
It's devastating, too bad, but
Tom, in a natural area, do people have to remove poison ivy from a natural area?
That's one of the things they can remove.
Do they have to?
Dead or diseased trees or limbs, poison ivy, poison oak. If it's dead or poisonous, yes, you can remove it. It doesn't mean you have to.
Yeah, you're not required to because it's a natural area, but you,
If you want to let it go completely natural, yeah, you have
Right.
that choice also.
yeah.
At the last meeting, he stated how they did clean up all of the poison ivy that
Yeah.
had grown quite extensive.
But he doesn't, it's not required to do that, which is my point. It's not, I mean, he can do it if he wants, but it's not a requirement.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
making that
Thank you.
clear.
okay. Could we get something in writing? This will be in the minutes, I take it, or will it?
Yeah, oh yeah, I mean, we can record it, so, I mean,
Okay,
it's also.
yeah, that's fine.
So,
Good. Thank you very much.
If you need to fall back on it, yes.
I just want to make sure we're not giving any instructions that aren't.
Yes, sir.
Stephen Knish, 3485 Pine Ridge Drive, Lewis Center, and I'm familiar with the cul-de-sac. I'm a past trustee of the Woodsville Canyon, and when I heard about the issue a few months ago, I followed up on it, and I was told by a trustee that the issue was dead. As far as the Woods of Bell Canyon trying to do anything with it.
You were told by a trustee at your homeowners association?
Yes. But the comment on the condition of it, that traffic, or cul-de-sac, whatever you want to call it, has never looked any better. It really looks good. So, leave it.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Where were you last, 2 or 4 weeks ago?
Did you want to, you mentioned Woodsville Canyon, did you have anything else that you want us to follow up on that, or? I'm sorry, just,
The issue?
yeah,
No.
okay.
No,
Just wanna make
that's
sure.
just,
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Comment on the condition and what apparently is the stand of the Woods of Bell Canyon Association.
Okay, thank you. Any other items? Seeing none, we'll move on to the zoning report. As always, we always have a list of zoning hearings. That's up there. There's several hearings coming up over the next month, and if you want to take a look at them, please feel free to go over there and review them. Next on the agenda is accepting a resignation from Economic Development Advisory Board. We just recently had a person that their job position changed, so they became a little bit overwhelmed with that position. So they, because of their inability to participate, they want to go ahead and resign so that we could find someone else to replace her. Are there any questions?
No.
I'd like to make a motion to regretfully accept the resignation of Linda Petty from the Orange Township Economic Development Advisory Board effective September 6, 2008.
Second?
Mr. Quigley?
Yes.
Mr. Anto?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes. How many people are on that board?
7.
And so, we lost 2 of them within the last
We
meeting?
actually know we voted in one last meeting. So
Yeah, but we did lose one, right? Is that correct?
So we'll go ahead and post that position opening on the website and also put it on the listserv. Thank you.
When are we filling that position?
The goal is to have at least a meeting prior to the next Economic Development Advisory Board.
At least that, yes.
Right, at a minimum, so within the next month and a half.
Their next meeting is early November, so be something late October probably.
So maybe at the next meeting, is what you're thinking?
No, not at the next meeting. The next Economic Development Advisory Board meeting, which is in November. So for us, we'll post it for at least a month
Yes.
for response. Moving on to item C, the administrative review of Menard. Consider request to change initial primary fire and EMS access to Creekside Drive to Forest River Road. Mr. Ferry, did you want to fill the board in on this?
Menards has made a request to substitute Creekside Drive for Corduroy Road as their initial access for the fire department to provide safety services and meeting fire and EMS. Fire department has already signed off on it as long ago as about 2 weeks when the issue first came up. Menards is getting a bit of a late start, or later than they planned, and they can get Creekside Drive in quicker than they can Corduroy Road because it's shorter. There still will be required by the fire department to maintain their property once Creekside drives in once you cross the property line onto the building site, that they're responsible on their own for maintaining access for the fire department that's satisfactory to Fire Inspector Joe Golson. Mr. Golson came by and signed off on the administrative review this afternoon. We're just asking that the trustees approve this change because the zoning development text stipulated that it would be Corduroy Road completed first and would be the primary access to the building site. Corduroy Road would run up along the north side of the property, where this is pretty much direct into the front of the property. So either way, I believe that Mr. Golson will enforce what they need to have satisfactory access once they get onto the Menards property. That would be the same whether it would be Corduroy Road or Creekside Drive. This will just enable Menard to start putting the building up quicker than what it would be with Corduroy Road. I don't know why I keep saying Pullman Drive.
Okay, great. Any questions?
So
No.
what I do need for you guys to do is sign off on it, like
Okay.
do the normal administrative review.
Yeah, I'll make a quick motion here and then we'll just sign off on it, so.
Okay.
So there's no interference with safety that the inspector could,
The fire department. will
Joe
sign
said it
off.
didn't matter to him which road he got access from, but because it's on Menard, once you get onto the site or their property where the building's gonna be, that they have to maintain their own internal access adequate to support the fire trucks and EMS vehicles.
in your opinion, is that it's substantially compliant?
It doesn't really matter to me. It's up to Mr. Golson whether they have access. So,
With the zoning,
if they,
substantially compliant with the zoning, it doesn't change it.
no, it doesn't change the zoning. They're still going to have Corduroy Road and Graphics Way completed from property line to property line, and before they get a certificate of compliance to occupy and stock and open the buildings.
Thanks.
Okay, the motion, we find the plan for the fire access to Menards has been submitted to be substantially compliant with the approved zoning.
Second?
Mr. Quigley,
Yes.
Ms. Knapp,
Yes.
Mr. Anto.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Ferry. Is there anything else from zoning you'd like to mention?
We're still busy with the zoning commission. They have 2 hearings tomorrow evening. One's for stipulations for the MI development and over at Africa Road, and we're having what we hope will be the final meeting tomorrow night. But I said that last time about MI, so
Yeah.
we'll see for Triple T transport.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and move on to the park report. Turn over to Trustee Toronto.
Mr. Overturf?
Thank you all.
Thank you.
We have a resolution to accept Pros Consulting's report, which they gave you a overview and a chance for discussion on the 27th of August. This is kind of a conclusion to something, a start of a conclusion, I meant to say, of something that started about 4 years ago. I outlined basically steps to get us from the initiation part of this all the way through to the final opening of a community center if it was approved along the way. So each step takes you to approval part, next approval part, where there are. Pros Consulting, which we signed in December of last year, was to do the needs assessment analysis of questions, and those questions would be project scope and quantity, the project planning and programming, the marketing research, the project funds, and the project performance. I believe that they have done an excellent job with quite a bit of data behind that. The committee put a lot of time in that. They gave your presentation to it. I didn't have any questions. The next phase of this is to accept their completed report. This will end our contract with Pros Consulting. So I think that's why we're here today. Any questions on it?
I think they've completed their study. They've done everything that we've asked them to do. With the conclusion of the meeting that we had with them, so I believe I am okay with ending the work that we had them set out to do for us. The next steps is when it goes into what we decide we want to do with that information. Does anybody have any questions?
No, I agree with Ms. Turner.
You okay with me reading this?
Yeah.
I move the adoption of the following resolution, whereas on the 5th day of December 2011, the Board of Trustees executed a contract with Pros Consulting to perform a feasibility analysis for a possible Orange Township Community Center. Whereas on August 27, 2012, the Pros Consulting completed its work and presented its feasibility analysis in a public meeting. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Trustees of Orange Township, Pros Consulting contract for the Orange Township Community Center analysis is completed and accepted as confirming that the township should move forward with the next steps of investigating the financing, design, and other steps that move toward a final decision on whether to fund and construct a community center.
Second?
Mr. Anto?
Yes.
Mr. Quigley?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes.
I believe that the next item is authorization, have public request for proposals, qualifications for consultants for the community center. The reason why we're asking to go forward with the RFPs and RFQs is because we have to get to a price, let's say by June, the end of June, in order to decide what is a true cost of this project, and to decide with, and we have some advisory committee to be able to decide what the RFQs, RFPs should be. We go out, would be a designer, could be some consultants on the land. Right this time, since we're able to go forward, we're not exactly sure, but all these would always come in front of the trustees for approval, just like they always do for all the RFPs, RFQs, or consultants. We need to get on what the design's going to be, the land selection, so we can really quantify exactly what the price is going to be and how we're going to fund this. Whether we fund it, whether we fund it with a bond, whether we fund it with a bond and a partner, whether we fund it with a partner. That has to be the next step forward, and to find out where we are. But what we end up doing is basically getting a design professional, do some pre-design work,
do some schematics, and then come to a cost estimate, which you would be more refined than what you have in pros consulting, and that would give you an indication of, first of all, we would know approximately which land we were doing, we would know the square footage, we would know exactly what the makeup could be at that time. These RFQs and RFPs, let's say we went with design professionals, they would be broken down into 2 phases, of course. One phase would be to get us to the cost to where we would see how we would get our funding. The second phase would be if the funding was approved or decided to go forward on, then we would OM the second phase of the cost to do the project. So we're asking for the ability to go forward on these RFPs and RFQs, and whatever next steps would be for the project.
Question, I don't believe I caught your name and association, and I have no idea what an RQ or an FQ is.
Request for proposal and request for qualifications.
Okay.
A lot of times you ask for proposal, so you get a big picture response that there's.
But who are you?
Oh, I'm Scott Overturf. I'm the owner's rep for the township.
He's a contractor for the township.
I'm a consultant for the township.
Okay.
On building projects.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
That's a good question.
Got any other questions about the project? Sorry. Okay. Anyway, I'm asking for, we're going to go forward with a resolution to do these kind of things. The steps are finished.
We need this information before we have the open houses and to be able to provide more information to the public, correct?
Well, what we'll do is with some of these, I mean, once we get a designer in place or what we're doing with the committees, all those will be kind of open meetings for input for that. I need to do that in order to decide where we're going to go forward. We'll have a meeting toward the end for the public for their input on what we have and what the results were at schematic design and land selection and those kind of things. I really need to get it done by, let's just say, I need to get it done by June, July sometime. Therefore, it can move forward to go on to, if it's a ballot's required, that's when I need the information. Because during the time of there, we need to surely have a good isolation of what the true funding would be. And then if there's a campaign of any type that needs to be done, it would go till the ballot and the voters approve whether we go forward or not.
I think one of the key things you said there is trying to find partners to help maybe possibly invest into it for costs. And
Right.
we need some of this information up front to be able to present it to those partners to say this is what we're looking for. Do you want to invest in something along those lines? And I think that's very important to help out if we can find partners to take on that cost.
Our thought is that we would have basically 5 kind of committees. One advisory committee that oversees from start to finish. Another committee would be involved in the selection of the RFPs and RFQs. A second one would be involved in the design and land selection. The third would be involved in communication marketing, public approvals, open houses, a bond campaign. And the fourth one, or the fifth one, if you're counting the first one, is the budget, the land purchase and partnering, and then the bond. We have to get to a point, and I would be comfortable when I have more exact numbers instead of it's between X amount of dollars and this amount of dollars. That's not good enough. We did do each space out, and each one has a number, understand that, but when you get down to what you're really gonna do, you can define that, and you can get to a point where you're gonna say, look, if we have a partner, would you like to be involved in X percent of this? It's gonna be whatever the total is.
Right.
It's easier to talk to them that way than talk to them, we wanna do this. You know, I wanna be a little bit more forward thinking for them and say, look, we know it probably will be this and we want you a part of it.
Anybody have any questions about moving forward on this?
What kind of, have we decided that we're is there like a timeline or a document that shows all these different steps that you were just discussing?
Yeah, there's an original document, but right now we're just installing. We're at the place that says you accept that the pros consulting analysis, you've accepted that. Now we're to the point where we're going to go and get to a design and I have some time frames if you want to see it, a design and financial decision that tells us where do we go after that. Because you have to have those, not a complete building built, but that information that from there, and it would be, in theory, it would be done by July 1st as we get there. And that decides where you want to go ahead, and if we need a bond, to go ahead and go get a bond, or if you don't, and you say, look, you know, it costs too much, we're not going to do that, we're not ready, et cetera, then we just stop. Each one of these phases have a place for go, no go kind of thing. If that goes, and let's say it went to the voters, that would be a go, no go. And then once that was decided, then we would go forward to the next.
Okay, so have we decided that whether we're going to have a rec center or not?
No, we need to.
No, that's what
That's
he's getting to is, okay, we're still going through the process right now to say, okay, we need to find out exactly how much this is gonna cost, what is the site plan, you know.
What's the piece of land?
What are all the specifics about it, and then at that point, we can make a decision if we want to take the next step. He's saying each one of these is a step dependent upon the trustees, whether or not they want to move forward. If we get to the next step and find out that the cost to do this is overwhelming, can't find any business partners along those lines, and we make that decision at that time, if we want to move forward, you go to the next step. The next step is possibly looking at financial financing possibilities, or move forward with one of the financing possibilities. Mm-hmm. So right now, we're at a step where he's asking us, do we want to move forward to the next phase, which is going ahead and get a lot more of the specifics to make the next decision in that phasing process.
Were we given any information about this?
About what?
About this, I had no idea what this was when I saw it on the agenda.
A lot of the things that Mr. Turf has described is kind of from now until it would go to the voters then. There's a number of, like he was describing, go, no-go issues. This is the first one. This first step says, okay, we've accepted the feasibility study, and we'd like to take the next step, which was recommended in that feasibility study. We could go to the voters now and say, you know, this is what we've got. The feasibility study says you want it, put $29 million in the bond, and I don't think that we get a whole lot of support because we don't have a lot of details.
Right.
I know Scott and I have a number of questions. I think the trustees do, and by the survey, the residents do as well. So this next step that we're requesting this evening would give us permission by the trustees for Mr. Overturf, myself, and then Mr. McCarthy to put together, Mr. Carroll, to put together a scope that would then come back to the trustees for approval to go out and put out the RFP, RFQs. At that point, we would get responses from the RFP and RFQs. We would select consultants at that point. Those consultants, as well as committee members that we would select that would be passed by the board, would then start the next process, which would be to look at the 5 different areas that he was talking about as far as if in the end of that process, which would be several months long, we'd be able to say where the recreation center or community center location would be recommended, how much exactly that's going to cost, the exact layout that we're proposing, and through a public process, throughout that process, once those consultants are selected, we'd have a number of open meetings, a number of open houses for the community to come in and say, this is what I want. I want racquetball instead of squash, or I want this kind of pool or that kind of pool. I want these programming items to be included in it. So we would have the details of exactly what that building looks like, so that when we would go out to the voters and we know if we have a partner, who that partner is, how much money that is, what the location is, what the dollar amount is, and this is the building that we build if the recreation center, community center is voted for. That's down the line. This evening, all we're looking for is the permission to move forward to write that scope for the RFP and the RFQ. And then it'll come back to the trustees once that's done.
Lisa, one of the things, if we get the approval to go forward, is that I create a project manual. The project manual outlines what we have to date, what we've decided to do, how we decided to go forward, steps that you're looking for. And it'll tell you that we're looking for a certain size of building, a certain location. Then it'll also tell you that we also need to decide as going forward those particular steps. Like we'll go to the July whatever date, and that'll be a no-go proposition for the trustees. There are probably, and it'll list, and let me take a real quick look, but I have approvals that the trustees need to do is acceptance of this is probably about 7 or 8 of them, of the feasibility study, trustees to move forward with the project, trustees for RFQs, trustees design for the approval of the designer engineer's contract, for trustees approval of the land selection, the trustee bond campaign if there is one. Then there's trustees for approval for the programming, trustees approval for staffing, approval for the contractor. Each one of those has an input and decides where we want to do and where we go.
Yeah.
And they have to be, it's kind of linear as it is. The committees themselves, when the committee is set up, then the committees kind of work within relationship different than a lineal. Each one has their own tasks assigned to them to figure it out and go from there. So
Can we get a copy of that, or do we have that already?
Of what?
The timeline that you're looking at?
The timeline that I have right now,
Yeah.
there's no dates to it right now.
Yeah, just,
Once I get approval, yeah, I can put in dates.
what, just a general, just, it doesn't have to have the dates, but just the way that we would proceed through this project, what you just read off.
Yeah, I mean, I have it. I had it 4 years ago. I have it right now. It has not changed. But I'll be glad to send it to you. The dates will say, some of the dates will say start 12/1/11, finish 12/1/11. In other words, they haven't been filled in, but yeah, sure.
So is there a projected amount of time that this will take you and the attorney and Beth, will you be working on this? Okay, so how long will it take you to do it, to complete this?
To complete just the RFQ items? Well, historically, those take about 90 days to get to a point that we have a selection of some, so it'll be sometime in December, probably approval in January for those that we've had. It's going to take a little time from that. But historically, that's what it takes, because you not only go out for bid for 30 days, then the process, there's a certain way that you have to do a selection for RFPs, RFQs, and you have committee. And first of all, they take it to a certain amount, then they take it down to 2 or 3 potential proposers, and then they select them. So, yeah, but I kind of outlined just in general that I needed to get this done by, let's say, the end of the year. So I have about, I don't know, 90, 120 days to when I have to get the end results for the June 1st, June something, to be ready for you guys to decide. So, that's, yeah.
So is that, this takes quite a few man hours to complete?
Yes, it does.
How
Yes,
many,
it does.
what range of hours do you think?
Range of man hours per person, per what?
For the whole project, I guess, or for the whole phase you're talking about here?
Well, what I'm talking about, it'll take the man hours, probably 40 to 50 man hours of my time to get it all the way through. It'll take half a best time or a third of best time, and then depend upon whoever else we need. I do have the attorney's fees already covered to the end of the year. And then there's a lot of other time that we meet to go over the RFPs, RFQs and stuff like that. So that's just in relationship to the amount of work that needs to be done here.
All right, so I know we did have the steering committee report and the needs assessment report, but are we still getting any more community input on having a rec center, or am I missing a step? I mean, I would still like to get a little bit more community input, or we're not having open houses until later?
No, that's not true. There'll be open houses
After
during the
this.
course of these committees that are doing their
But
things.
after you've completed this part?
Once we get all the information together, then we would have an open house, of course, first of all, to give a presentation on where we are, where we think we are, and why we should or why we should not go forward. That would be one. We have probably an open house before we came to the trustees, just in general, to show where we are.
Basically, this entire study is based on community input.
Yeah,
right.
It has been,
Right.
that's why we did the original stuff. That's all community input and an expertise from Pros
All the
Consulting.
different sessions we've had was community input. I
Mhm.
mean, there was
And the
plenty of opportunity.
The feasibility study has been on the website,
Right.
for quite since it was completed, and it was presented on the 27th, with a request for comments and input to be provided, and to date, we've only received one email.
Right, yeah, I did see that one. So what would be the cost to the township to complete this part that Mr. Overturner is proposing?
That I can't tell you right now.
How many hours of attorney, you have no clue? What would you say?
Well, I can't tell you that because if we go out for RFPs, RFQs, then they give you an amount to do this, which I don't know. I can guesstimate, but you don't open that up until you make your final selection. Then you make your selection and you negotiate whatever they said.
The RFQ process is all man hours at this time, putting it together and putting it out there.
That's
It's
correct.
just the two of you, you don't need to consult the attorney?
Yeah, I
The
do.
attorney will review the RFQ.
Yeah.
Right, that's what I was saying. How
Responses as
long,
well.
how many hours would that take?
Oh,
That's what I'm asking.
He'll
You
take.
said that the attorney fees were already.
Yeah, we have already have a purchase order for that.
Exactly.
Right.
And
I
we
just
had a
wondered
purchase
how
order
much
for
it
some
costs.
22,000, and we've only spent 5.
Right, but just because we have a purchase order doesn't mean we can just spend the money.
And you said you had.
Well, I try to be vigilant with the money we spend and not to utilize him on how long he takes. He does do a good job for us.
Sure.
He was able to get these resolutions together to me in less than 2.5 hours. I presume from the previous time they did, he'd have to come to some of these meetings in order to hear,
Yeah.
to make sure that these people, and he puts his input. So if we have 5 meetings, he'll go to 2 of those, and then each one of those meetings we have a contract review, and that's probably 4 or 5 hours each for each of the
I
contracts.
don't know how many of those are going to get in from.
Yeah, I don't know, because I don't know yet. I will know that, but I can keep you posted. It's.
There's a lot of
public
variables there that you can't pinpoint right now from the
That-
cost.
that-
But
Right,
you
just
know
trying to
that
get
you
a
do know that you
general
have about
range.
50 hours.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to, yeah,
Ms. Hugh will spend, obviously, a considerable amount of time on this as well.
that's
Right.
correct.
Well, I'm just trying to get an estimate of how, so this could be $20 or $30, $40,000 worth of time and cost to prepare this part. And I just want to make sure that we're all ready to do that. I'm to proceed because it's only been, what, a month since we had the meeting to review the assessment. I don't know if we've had enough public comment on this. I know we put the assessment on the website, but that's a very complicated document. once it was in the paper a couple weeks ago, I had some comments, and we had the one comment on the website, or from the listserv, but a lot of people seem to be expressing that only a small number of residents actually, out of all 27,000 people we have here, actually participated in that survey.
We do have a legal valid survey.
Yeah.
That was the price. And so it's spending $25,000 or $30,000 to do all that. We spent the $5,000 or $6,000 to make sure that we had a legal, viable survey. That way we wouldn't overspend for the same result.
A legal survey?
Yeah.
Legal?
Yeah.
Like statistically valid.
Statistically valid, legal. That's if they ask if it's valid. It's legal.
Is this urgent time? Can we wait till the next meeting, or is this really an
Well,
urgent situation? I don't want to.
My opinion it is, because it's going to take X amount of time, and I only have like 2.5 months to get there. And then I have, theoretically, 150 days to get that information done. We're talking about someone designing a schematic type of information so we can get the cost. So mine is, that's why I wanted to get to this point right now.
And so what is the urgency of the time frame? You said June, is it?
Well, it'll take presentations in whatever you need in July, and then there's so much time you need if we have to go to the voters to go out for a campaign and to go ahead and go forward to say we want to put this on the ballot. And I don't know how many days that is,
90.
but I think if it's 90, so that information
Early August.
needs to be done by September or something.
Probably early August, I think.
Okay, August, yeah.
So-
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I come with the information in June,
Yeah.
assemble it in July, and able to do what we need to do for the ballot.
So we're considering November of next year, of 2013, if this goes forward? Has
The
that been
answer to that,
discussed?
see, that's where I am at the part. I guess in a perfect world, I could say yes, but if we don't go past the next step in July, then we're not considering it.
The real answer here is that we got a next step phase to go through before we make any other decision after that.
Which is a
So
costly
we need to figure out,
phase,
determine
right.
whether or not we're going to take this next step, if we're going to move forward beyond that, so.
And that's a step that could cost, like it said, $25,000, $35,000, $45,000 just to take the step. And I want to make sure that this is something that we have a pretty good feeling from the community. And I've heard a lot of good things, but I've actually honestly heard 50% people who are concerned about it. But I do know we need more details. I just, it's a big undertaking. And there's a lot of questions that are not answered, not by you, but just
No, I understand.
more, you've done a very thorough job, but I don't know if having everything ready by next August, which would be 11 months, less than 11 months, is feasible. Do you think it's feasible to have everything ready to go in a perfect world?
Everything to go means it gets approval to go to the next step, which means the final designs, the final purchase of the land, the final go ahead and start getting ready for the staffing. Yes. The fact of the matter is, we should be budgeting this year for next year, and Beth would have some kind of number that we would kind of assign to each of these, depending upon how many we have, each of these to cover that value.
And we need this information in order to seek out partners and have hard
That's the key.
facts, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
You're right, assuming that this is something that the community really wants. I mean,
Well, I think the study has shown us, first the survey showed us, and now the study is, he said he'd never seen anything like it, that it's all of the different studies he has done is that strong.
well, they had a large number, 59% of the 1,500 surveys responded, but and that's great, but I don't know if that makes it more valid or not.
It makes it acceptable as to what it is. As you note, they sent out, let's say, I don't remember how many sent out, 1,300 or whatever it is.
50.
Only so many responded.
Right.
So you figure there's 60% that don't care, that said, no, I don't want to do
I
this.
think 59% responded, is that right? 59%? So
Yeah.
it was normally 45%, so they
Mhm.
noted that there
Right.
was possibly, but I've had so many comments lately about when they saw that in the paper and online, that how many people actually responded, what was it? 700 and some, or 800 and some, compared to the population of the township. Some people mentioned they thought it was I know we're the decision makers and we look at the information and make decisions, but people are giving me comments that once they saw the actual numbers of the people that were surveyed, they were questioning that.
Well, I know when pros gave their presentation that we had one person that voiced it against it, and then we had a whole 5, 6, 7. I don't take the minutes or anything like that, but they were all positive for it. And this was an open meeting, and it was publicized to everybody. So
It just looked like the public meeting was being held to present the assessment and the report and not to necessarily get public input. So the lack of people actually attended that meeting. There might have been, 30 people, but it seemed like a lot of those people were board members or friends of board members or people that came in. There was a few that seemed to be, maybe 3 or 4, that didn't, were just random residents and read about it. But I would think that there would have been 100 people who came and expressed whether they were for it or against it. That was a small sample.
that would be interesting.
I mean, even the surveys that were done prior, during the process, that was all open, and I sat in one of those and had individuals in there that voiced their concern, but honestly, actually the one I sat in, once we went through it and we started talking about partners and all that, they were like, yeah, this is not a bad idea. So I mean, there was a lot of opportunities there along the way, community input over and over again. It wasn't just as one presentation at a meeting, there was steps throughout the process for community input. I'm sorry, sir, did you want to say something?
How many residents are there in Orange Township?
So 23,000?
I think there's 27.
No, it's
26,
675 or something.
That's
I looked it up.
Yeah.
26,675.
I was thinking the last census.
And 1,300 surveys were mailed out.
1,500.
1,500.
And that, I have a hard time believing that you guys are going to be able to make a decision with only whatever the percentage of the people that were surveyed for this thing. I mean, 1,500 out of 26,675 is a drop in the bucket.
And
I didn't get surveyed.
And that's
I don't know if
800
anyone
people,
got
maybe
surveyed.
800 people. And see, here we have a resident who is hearing this information for the first time, just like people that saw it in the paper, and he has the same reaction as people who have told me this. I heard that comment over and over again, that I know.
And sir, that's a valid concern. I mean, I know there's even a lot of people that are supportive of it, didn't know about it, that would have came as well. So it goes on both sides. And in all honesty, we have these open houses on various subjects out there, and in all fairness to those open houses, we'll have open houses where only 20 people show up. So having responded of, what was it for response on the surveys? I mean, that was overwhelming more than we normally would have even in the open houses that we have.
59%.
But I would hate to think that 700 or 800 responders would dictate that we're going to have a $29 million.
It's not going to dictate that. It's not going to dictate that.
Well,
What dictates it is when it gets put onto the ballot, if it goes onto the ballot.
The way
then
you
the
explain
public
the survey, it does. And it's
No, the survey only explains what the feeling is out there from statistically of what the public wants in this area. Then we're making decisions whether or not we're going to go to those next steps. The decision in the end, whether or not they want to pay for it or not, is going to be the residents overall. Okay, we're just doing the groundwork and laying down all the facts and figures so that the public will know exactly what they're voting on if that goes to that step. I'm not saying it's going to that step. All I'm saying is that we're doing the groundwork right now to present it to the public, and that's where it's at right now.
But we're spending tens of thousands of dollars to get to that point. We're not. The thing is that if there is a big cost to get from the point we are now to even get the project manual and the specs and things out. So we're still spending money. It's not like, oh, we got the survey and the assessment and we're done. I mean, there's costs that are going to be associated with that. Now, I wish I did see some of the meetings and notices for some of the meetings for the open houses and the ad hoc committees, and I felt that they were difficult to understand, and were they ever advertised like in the newspaper or just the listserv or?
Yep, they were all advertised.
In the
All
newspaper?
all the ad hoc committee meetings were advertised.
In the newspaper?
And both the newspaper and the listserv. Is that correct, Gail?
We put them out as news briefs in the paper. We have them listed in some of the articles, yes.
In what newspapers?
The local paper, I think the Dispatch actually ran one for us.
That's not, a lot of people I knew had no idea that was going on, and before I was a trustee, it was also confusing to me. I think it would be great to have something that, not just the listserv. How many people are on the listserv? 800?
Close to that, yes.
So we have 800 people on our listserv, and those are the people that get the notices. That's the only way we're telling people what we're doing is by the listserv, or if the press reports something. We're not actually creating a notice of this that's going out to most of our residents. Which is why we haven't had.
It's going out legally as it's supposed to.
Was it in the newsletter?
Yeah, the feasibility study wasn't done, hadn't been accepted by the time the deadline for the newsletter was. And if I could remind the trustees that in 2008, the master plan was updated, and at that point in time, the #1 response for what the community wanted in 2008 was a community center. #2 was trails. I think the survey that was just completed reiterates that. A lot of the response that I've gotten, if I'll get somebody asking about a trail or asking about a road situation, occasionally I'll get a line in the email that says, and when are we getting this community center? So I think that, I realize it's a lot of money, but at the same time, there are steps that a government entity need to go through before anywhere close to 29 million is spent. We've done the feasibility study. The feasibility study said move forward. I think it's 64% of the people said we want it, move forward, we would vote for it. If 64% of the people said we don't want it, we wouldn't be having this conversation this evening. So I think the only way to give the residents what they're saying that they want is to define enough about what we are giving them, in what location, where, and how, and allow them to vote on it. But the only way to do that is to spend money with the consultants to define that.
But how many responses did we get, Rob?
In regards to what?
For the assessment, the feasibility study, how many?
She just said it was, what's it, 600?
No, I'm asking you. How many responses did we get?
It was over
Just a
600.
second.
Six.
It wasn't 885, or it was 59%
Yeah, response to what?
to the
The
number.
actual response to the survey.
The surveys that were sent
I
out.
don't remember off the top of my head.
But it was over 60% is what you were saying.
I think it's 59, but so if you had, say it was 885, for example, and then you had how many, 64% said that they were interested in it. So it's 566 people out of our entire township. And I know it seems statistically valid, but this gentleman here, he has exactly the same reaction I'm getting from a lot of people, and I've never met him in my life. So
So the question then to you, Ms. Knapp, is what do you want to do to move forward? If that's the case, do you want to have, sit on this? Do you just want to not move forward? What's your recommendation?
Let me finish out. There were 1,500 households
Right.
in Orange Township. We needed for a valid statistical survey, which is assured by the people that do this. These are the people that make these feasibility studies and do survey. This was done by a professional survey company. We need 400, we got 559.
Right.
So those were the stats.
we got 559.
So to your question you asked earlier, it was like 5-something is what I said.
Yes, 559.
So 559, and then 64% of those, so 357 people.
Which represents the community. It was sent out to all different phases of the community to respond. That's how you do surveys.
I know.
They don't survey everybody.
And we
That's
can,
called a vote when you survey everybody.
right, but, and I understand that, and
Pardon?
And let's have a vote.
Well, but essentially that's what we're gonna, no, but that's essentially what we'll get to, if that's what the trustees
Right.
decide to, from a
But
standpoint.
how many more thousands of dollars do we have to spend till we get to the next step?
Exactly.
I'm trying to figure out by what's been said here tonight, I can't.
That's a great point, because I would echo that. Are we going to tell people that we just spent $55,000 of your money to not do anything about it?
That's not what he's saying. He's saying we're spending more money due to these phases. We're spending maybe $50,000 or $40,000
No, but
to do this.
I think what he's saying is that we did a survey for X amount of money
Right.
that came back very favorably, but now we're gonna go ahead and say, no, we're not gonna move forward.
Well, that's what he's saying, but he is, I think, stating what I'm saying, which is we're spending more money to do more work on this, possibly $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. I have no idea. No one's given me those numbers, but spending, I mean, what's your hourly build rate? 175, 185, something
Nope.
on. Well, whatever it is, it's a lot of money times 50 hours plus Beth and plus an attorney. When I just want to make sure that the community is entirely on board with this, and I guess I thought we were going to have some kind of actual open house or something that was advertised to a lot of the public, so we could, maybe an informal open house where people could come and look at things. And we didn't know, for example, I guess on a $250,000 house, the estimated cost for a bond issue would be $8 a month. And that's something that a lot of people didn't know, and that the facility should be self-sustaining once it's built. So it wouldn't, if you're not going to join it, you're not going to be paying for it other than the $8 a month. But those are a lot of things that people were mentioned at the assessment when we were provided that report. But
a lot of those things we don't even know until we find out the specifics to be able to make those statements of what it's gonna cost to build it, because we don't know if we're gonna have partners to help us build it. What is it gonna cost to sustain it?
a
Because we don't
partner
know
to
exactly
build
what's
it,
gonna
we
be
have
there.
a partner to build
A
it?
partner to go ahead and help cover the cost to build it. For instance, we might partner with Ohio Health or somebody to help come in and say, we're gonna do that for the pool, we're gonna do that. I mean, there's things there that we gotta look at. And to Mr. Overtur's point, you can't just go up to somebody, you can, but you're not gonna get a firm response from it. You go and say, we're gonna build this facility, how much are you willing to go ahead and put in to help build this? But if you have some actual numbers, you can say it's gonna cost X amount to build this portion of the facility. We know that you're interested in that. Could you provide X percent of this? And that's to his point of what he was trying to get at, is that to get those partners engaged, you gotta have a little bit more specifics to help them get on board.
Right, which is why we spent the $55,000 in the first place, but I think you're kind of putting the horse before the cart, because I wish there was a way to have like an informal period where people could, somehow we would be able to reach most of our residents and ask them to respond in email or come to a open house to take a look, because we are going to be making a decision soon to spend a lot of money, and I wish that
So
we would have.
what do you want to do, put a mass mailing out to every household? Is that what you'd like to do as a notice for an open house, which I think what is from postage would be another $3,000? I'm just asking.
Well, I don't know. I'm apparently you two are ready to.
No,
go.
that's not what I'm saying. I'm asking you, what do you want? I'm asking you, what do you want
Well,
to do?
this item was placed on
I'm
the
just throwing ideas
agenda,
out there.
and this, I had no idea what this meant. I wasn't given any documents, any paperwork, so I don't know how I was supposed to make up my mind about this with having a very generic statement, resolution authorizing making public requests for proposals and qualifications for consultants for community center project. I have no idea what that means, and probably most people didn't, so I'm not prepared to actually do anything tonight.
I know coming in during the week, during business hours, and speaking with these two several times, I was pretty well caught up on what was going on.
I thought the draft resolutions had been forwarded by Ms. Fay as well last week when they came in.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but this thing has been surveyed to death. Mr. Katz
Has been
put
what?
on a survey to death. Mr. Katz put on a $70-some thousand survey early in his term, an overall survey. That's where you
The 2008
referenced
to be the master plan.
trails and the rec center were the top two. Then we just spent $55,000. Everywhere I go, people say, enough with the studies already. Let's move on.
Are you in contact with 27,000 people on a regular basis?
No, but are you?
No, I'm not. That's why I'm not decided. My point is, just because you hear often it might be a resounding, yes, we want it, you might hear it for 60 or 100 people. It sounds great, but then once you actually go to spend money and things like that, people might change their mind. I mean,
The decision was made to do the study. The number one thing that people wanted was a community center.
right.
So then the decision of the past board was to do the study. It's silly to have spent that money, got an extremely positive results, and then just to drop it. I think we should at least do our due diligence, find out exactly what it's going to cost, where the land would be, and how it's going to support itself, if it's possible to get partners. And then everyone can make an informed decision on, yes, it's the way to go, or it's not the way to go.
That could be another $50,000, $60,000. I mean, to get to that point.
The project is $20 million.
20.
20 to $29 million. We don't know exactly what
Right.
it is. That's a sizable amount of money.
Right.
In relationship to finding the information, if you don't want to go forward, this is the information. We'll just tell everybody to read this, that's the information. Because there isn't any new information to put out.
Right, but once you get that back, then people will be sitting here saying, well, we just spent $60,000 to make this. Are we going to do, we're just going to sit here on our hands and do nothing? It'll be the same exact thing. Just because you have money invested, I mean, $55,000 is a lot to have the survey, but I think we had to do it because we needed to find out. But when will it stop that we keep spending money and it seems favorable? I just don't think we've had enough community input at this point. But I would need some time. I had no idea we're moving on this, to put this on the November ballot.
Nobody said when it's going to be.
We're not.
Nobody said that. He's just throwing out timelines and possibilities. Nobody said anything's affirmative.
Right.
Nobody said we're even taking next step yet. Right now, we're talking about the next phase of the
He
process.
was saying by
which is-
June.
He was saying he would like to have, he's a planner, he's an engineer, he's got timeframes in his mind, it's a standard engineer response. In his mind, this is the way he'd like to get things processed. Right now, we have a decision to make if we move to the next phase. Sir, did you have a comment?
Okay, I've got to say that if our township can throw around $54,000 for the survey, another $40,000 or $50,000 to continue the investigation, somewhere a $22,000 purchase order was mentioned. Out of 550 or 600 people said they'd like to have one. People said they wanted to have trails. Well, I noticed the trails driving over here on Orange Road. They're beautiful and protected. Now, get your car tomorrow and drive down Bell Canyon Road and look at the 5 and 6 foot drop-offs that far from the edge of the road that are unprotected. You go down in there, you're dead.
Sir.
Now, if we can't afford to fix this, or fix the roads that are deteriorating my neighborhood, we can't afford to build a recreation center.
To answer that question though, sir, that's, and this might be just something because you haven't been in the past meetings, but we've been putting funds aside for roads improvements and also for trying to work on those individual targets as far as we go. In fact, Bell Canyon from Orange Road to Lewis Center Road is one of them that we're looking at. There's several areas that, again, why we set up those funds and start putting funds into specific road improvement, future road improvements. So we're working on that, and the idea is that we can be able to get those funded within a 5 to 10 year time frame, so that we can go ahead and move forward with those projects.
So I'm sorry, I have to disagree with. We're looking into it. I notified trustees last year about the condition of Bell Canyon Road, and I talked to a county engineer. And he said to fix like a 100-foot section to put a guardrail up. It's like $200 a foot. And we can't do that, we have to study it.
What guardrail are we talking about?
To protect from a 5-foot drop off that far from the edge of the road.
But aren't most of the areas that are...
That's my understanding, I have not heard a complaint on it.
What part of the opinion is that?
Folks, I have sent an email to you, the Board of Trustees, suggesting that you drive onto Bell Canyon Road and examine the condition of it on a safety standpoint.
When was that email sent?
I would have to go back
Last
through
year,
myself, but I sent the email and I never received any response.
I didn't.
But it seems to me that we want to build more grandeur facilities in this township. but we aren't maintaining what we already have.
And I don't, but I just want to say I don't agree with that. And that's the reason why we set up those separate accounts to start making sure that we can get funds into those accounts.
So we can afford to build a hiking trail and protect it like Fort Knox, but we can't protect the edge of the road.
But those, wait a minute, sir, that Orange Road project was a separate project, and they included the trail with it. That was all done at the same time. It's the same thing, sir. Sir, it's the same thing. There's also, when you get grants now, there's a requirement that you have to build a trail, depending on the grant. But there's requirements now that you have to build a trail if you get those grants. So that's one of those things that you have to fulfill as an obligation from those grants.
But still, he's
So what, from the standpoint of the road improvement, Bell Canyon, yeah, you're right. I mean, there are areas there that are dangerous. I believe that all those safety areas, and if we're missing one, let us know. I'm not sure, but from a standpoint of widening Bell Canyon, it's not a drop in the bucket. I mean, in certain areas. But I'm just saying, from a safety standpoint, if there's anything beyond just a guardrail. If there's a guardrail issue that we're missing, then let us know and we'll take a look at it and we'll evaluate it. I don't recall. I mean, just let us know. I don't recall seeing an email from that, and if I did, I'll be honest with you, I don't remember seeing that.
Send us an email.
So if please send it to us and we'll look at it. I mean, safety is,
But I don't really need to. I'm kind of notifying you now that you need to check.
Right, I'd like to get.
Yeah, I'm not asking. Okay.
Give me your contact information before you go.
But we'll, Miss Hugh, if you can go out and take a look along there and work with the county and find out if there's areas that need to be addressed with that.
I'll be quiet.
Yeah, no, you're fine. No, I mean, if there's something that we're missing, that's fine. That's why we're happy that you're here, is to be able to go ahead and make that statement.
Well,
So,
listen, I have to say that people don't understand what's going on with the progress. I remember reading an official thing from Orange Township about wanting to build a bridge, a pedestrian bridge across Route 23.
Right.
Am I the only one that ever read that in the newspaper?
no, you're not.
What? At what cost is that going to be?
$1 million grant that we've received from Morrissey.
And who's it going to serve?
And we're paying $900,000 also towards it.
Well,
The
okay.
Yeah, sir, I think there's, and I'm glad you're here because you're finding out a lot of things that might have already been taking place. And I'm more than welcome, if you'd like to come in and sit down, I'm more than welcome to sit down with you, Miss Hugh. We can go through all these projects and talk about it in more detail.
Right, but I think,
whenever you'd like to.
Now. Well, one thing I think he's saying is that we have all these big projects going on, and there's a perception that we're neglecting some smaller things that would be easy to take care of.
I'll be quiet.
No, but sir, here's the thing, is that it's a big township, and we're trying to address a lot of different things at the same time. So if we're missing something, feel free to let us know. And now that you notified us that we're missing something, we'll go ahead and take a look at it.
He said he already notified us, so I'm
I just said that. I just reiterated the fact that he was here notifying us, and we'll go ahead and look for that.
Right.
So we'll take that. We'll go out and look at it and make sure that we address it. There's always going to be small things here and there. I mean, maintaining a township overall is a difficult task in general. And once in a while, it's great when residents come in and tell us if there's something that we're missing. That's what we need to know, and that's why we need your engagement, and we appreciate it. Thank you.
But I would like to get more resident input just to make somehow, I'm not sure before spending another however many thousands of dollars before that we're absolutely certain that this is something, because we have a good framework to work with. But Mark Robertson gave us the $8 an hour or $8 per month estimate for the bond issue, and there were the proposed rates, $90 a month for family membership. And that's a good starting point. I don't know if we need all the other information. We have a good estimate just from the assessment, the study.
So
I don't think we do.
From your standpoint, I just want to make sure from the cost standpoint, you're saying 40, 50 hours of your time will be utilized to get that RFP process out.
Mm-hmm.
And legal time, correct?
And misuse time and benefits. It's very
So
intensive.
from a cost above and beyond of what we're normally already paying, from what we're already paying our employees to do their job, you're saying it's just from a consultant standpoint and from a legal standpoint that we're looking at the cost right now.
That's correct.
Plus staff time, extensive staff time, which is a cost to the township. I'm estimating $35,000, $40,000, informally for this step. And that's just a lot of money, I think, to go ahead. and move
I'm not
forward.
sure if you're looking at, if you're saying 50 hours there, correct? That's what you're saying?
Approximately, yeah, because there's already funds that we put in to do some of this work here.
Right.
Of course, we will, you know, if there is no conclusion, then there's no reason to go forward with those and to stay on other projects per se. As far as, and again, I'll reiterate, if you're not going to go forward, all the information you'll ever have would be right here.
Right.
I don't have any more information.
Right.
Mark based his assessment on 29 million. I don't believe this is probably a $24, $23 million project. That's just a quick scan of what I think, you know. And so what is that? Is that now $7 a month? Is it $6? I'm not going to say that because I don't have definitive. This is like anything else. This is this point of view, and it's fine. We have a number to start with.
Right, it's a ballpark, I think it's a ballpark. Once I did hear that number, I was much more comfortable with it. But that I referred people to our website to take a look at this study, and even after they claimed they read it, they had a lot of questions that were already in there because it's a huge document that's difficult for anyone to have the time to read it and synthesize it. So I think it's our job as trustees to take that study and then try to condense it or summarize it and present it to the public in a way that they could understand. I just don't get the idea that they're actually understanding it right now.
When they had the presentation, I guess that was that condensing.
Well, you saw hardly anyone came though. People obviously didn't care either way. If we had 5 people here that were speaking for it, everyone else who was here were.
I understand, and maybe we only get 20, maybe we get 30 next time, and that won't be enough. Maybe we'll get whatever. I can't tell what the public's going to do. We had ODOT in here doing other projects, big road projects, or the county doing East Orange Road, and we had less than 30 people.
Right.
And those were publicized as required, as needed.
Well, the legal requirements versus common sense requirements can be opposite sometimes. What about if we tabled it till the next meeting and I came up with some ideas for how to publicize this better to the public?
Well, if we went forward, that would be a good thing to do, to talk to the Communication and Marketing Committee for public approvals, open houses, and bond campaigns.
Does that committee still exist?
No, that is. There's no reason to have one if we're not going forward. So that would be.
We haven't decided we're going forward. I'm saying I want more community input before we decide to go forward.
All I know is for anybody to go forward, none of these will exist.
Oh, yeah, I understand that.
To go to the next step. I'm not going forward on the project. I'm going to the next step for your approval, for the approval from the trustees, for approval for those that show up that want to participate.
And we need to move forward in order to get harder facts to be able to give to the community.
Again,
But we
So that they truly understand
That's
what we're
correct.
looking at.
But they have a good idea right now of what once I presented it in a condensed version, people seem to understand it, but it seems like I have to individually present each person.
Right now, it was presented with basically estimates of possibilities, which there was a lot of approval for it. Now we're talking about presenting more specifics, which would be able to give the public a better understanding and grasp, make a better decision on which way they want to go. Right now, you're presenting basically the same thing we already presented, and I think it would almost make a little bit more sense to get more specifics on it, so that the public can make an educated decision on those specifics. We did it with the presentation here.
That assessment.
And also
That was not advertised as a public forum to provide citizen input. That was a presentation of the assessment of the project. That didn't welcome public comments or participation. And I don't mean someone would have to come to a meeting. I mean, it's hard for people to come to a meeting and sit through the whole thing, and a lot of people don't have time to do that. Everybody's busy. But maybe if we were to have some kind of open house or something, and then also invite simple email comments. Someone could take 5 minutes and we could have 100 people that said, hey, this is a great idea, go for it. We could have 10 people that are against it. We could have, who knows what, but asking for residence time. People that really want it or people that really don't want it will most likely take the time to respond. And then that would also, what I like is that some of these comments I've been getting, I have a whole list of like probably 40 comments I've received from people and written down like the last couple of weeks. A lot of questions that I didn't even know the answers to that seem like valid concerns. And so by answering those, we also can be assured that we are that we're answering questions people will have, and also that we're sure about what we're doing. There are a lot of
Are these
interesting
emails
questions.
you've received, or at soccer games, or on the street?
Yeah, on the street.
Phone calls?
Yeah, well, just one email, the one email that we got. But also that particular listserv notice was just, what was it? It was just mentioning that, I can't remember what that listserv notice said, but it said that we're seeking comments, but the way that it was worded wasn't, we're thinking about this, we need your comments now. It was more of a kind of an afterthought, so. I just would like to get, I'm surprised at the number of neighbors who will tell me, oh, I think I'm against a community center. And I'm really shocked because, I mean, I would love to have one if the community wants it. And these are the same questions exactly that this gentleman mentioned. It's the same exact response I've gotten from everybody. And we're not talking about people that are financially suffering. We're talking about people that are just neighbors, friends, people who are not in dire financial straits who are still concerned that we're making the right decision. And if 374 people basically stated that they would want a community center out of almost 27,000 people, that just, it's a perception. I think we have a good base to start with to inform people. But I don't know how, I don't have a suggestion at this meeting on how to do that.
May I ask a question? At this point, we have a statistically valid survey from 2008, a statistically valid survey from the feasibility study. At what point, what is the new criteria to move forward with if the two statistically valid surveys are not the point that says move forward? What is that criteria?
I would like to reaffirm that from community input that people who respond to an open house or a request for emails are also the people that probably vote. So I would like to have a better response from more people to help affirm this. I'm not comfortable with it right now. I mean, I am myself, but I'm not, we have to listen to the input from the public. And also that would be a good way to educate people too, because we'd answer their questions and they could go back and tell friends and neighbors and have a better grasp of it. That would be a second advantage.
Would it be legal to have kind of a questionnaire thing outside a voting precinct?
What kind of question?
You're talking about like a voting, the voting precinct during voting times. You're talking about like doing, but again, it's a poll. It's the same thing they do with polls. It's a random survey. You're not going to get full participation in that either. I'm just saying because people.
Yeah, I
understand the question. From a standpoint of saying that during election time, maybe have people doing a quick question or yes or no or something.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. The people that are concerned will be there voting in November. The people who don't care won't vote.
Have you mentioned it to any of your neighbors or friends, the community center?
No one knows a darn thing about it,
Okay,
other than it's talking.
right, exactly.
No details.
If we did have some kind of more community input, like I said, the people that had questions, we could help answer the questions, at least in a ballpark figure. And those people are the people that tell their friends, and it can help spread the word about. And that's why I've been spending a lot of time doing, is trying to spread the word about what the survey was, trying to synthesize it and tell people what it meant. But that doesn't mean everybody's.
I don't know, I'm a little concerned going out there and saying that this is $29 million, but in reality it's 23. I mean, that makes a big difference. I'd like to, if I'm going to go talk to somebody about it, I want to know a lot more of the specifics before I get into that conversation, because having round numbers like that can persuade an individual's thought process one way or the other. If you know the actual or close to the actual numbers of what we're looking at, people can make a better decision at that point.
Right, but the difference between like a $30 million facility and a 23, you're talking $8 a month versus $6. So that, to me, You have to look at this from the resident's perspective, not the trustee's perspective.
I am looking from a resident's perspective. Just like
$6
you, I go out and talk to all my neighbors, my friends,
But $6
I talk
is-
to them all. I mean, I get the same input that, not the same input that you get, but I get input from the residents and all that. So, I mean, I'm not looking at this from my perspective. I'm getting this from also people that I speak with too.
Right, but $6 or just $8 a month, that probably isn't a deal breaker. I think we have enough information to ask the community, and we have the report, we have all the drawings, and I think we have enough information to ask for. We needed all that information, in my mind, to get to the next public participation level before spending another however much more money. But I mean, we're a board of 3, so I mean, whatever you're free to go forth. If 2 out of 3 agree, I mean, that's fine. I'm just telling you how, in my opinion. I don't know how 2 weeks would really delay anything. But
Well, it's more than 2 weeks because what you're asking for is more public opinion, so it's going to be 2 weeks for you to come up with a plan.
right.
Then it's going to be multiple weeks after that because you want to go ahead and get the feedback. So we're not just talking a couple of weeks, we're talking a couple of months.
Right, 2 weeks to discuss it again. If I came back with a proposal that sounded reasonable, or maybe I would go home and find out that there's nothing I could propose that would make any sense to anybody. And then it would be pointless, but I don't know how to tell you what I don't know right now. I don't have any plan. Like I said, I wasn't even sure what it meant. So I would like to be given the opportunity to spend a couple weeks looking at this further. and come
Scott, do you
back.
have any idea how much it would cost to survey about 10,000 people?
If we're gonna do a survey, let's do all 26,000. 70 was for 3,000, if I remember right, something like that. I can find out. I'll call the people that did this survey and find out what it would take for 26,000.
I'm not trying to be a jerk, but after $132,000 in surveys, I'm not sure I would sign a check for another survey.
I don't think we need a survey. I think we just need to make it clear somehow. We need to reach our residents and tell them what we're considering and get their input and answer their questions. And they might have questions that we didn't even think of.
And how do you reach those residents?
I've already said several times that I would like to go home and spend some time and come back with a proposal. I've said
So
that
you did
several
not
times.
say how you would reach those?
Absolutely not. This is a new topic to me tonight.
So a
There's no
survey is
way.
not one of those options?
How would I know what options I'm considering when I haven't
Because
considered
when I
options?
asked him about a survey, you stated, I don't think we need a survey.
I don't think,
So I was
well, that
wondering.
would be, to me, we've already done a lot of surveys to go through this whole process again of, plus, is it scientifically valid? If we send a postcard out to everybody and half the people, it has to be scientifically valid, but this is more of a, remember, when that survey was done, nobody knew anything about the community center. Now we have a lot more information that costs us a lot of money, and we can now present that information in an informal or formal manner and get opinions. Before, they were actually, the very beginnings of the survey were, it was just basic. There was nothing was really known. There were a lot of unanswered questions. We have a lot of questions that are at least partially answered now. But I'm done talking, so we can table it or we can make the motion, so you two make the decision. I don't really have anything else to say on it.
Could always run the motion, see what happens, or it's your call.
I move the adoption of the following resolution, whereas the Board of Trustees has resolved to move forward with the next steps of investigating the financing, design, and other steps that move toward a final decision on whether to fund and construct a community center. Whereas the next steps involve the employment of consultants and design professionals with respect to the investigation of financing, design, and other steps. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Trustees of Orange Township. The Township's owner's representative, Scott Overturf, is hereby authorized to move forward as he may determine to be appropriate for qualifications and for proposals for suitable consultants and/or design professionals to take orderly next steps in the investigation and planning of the Orange Township Community Center. The selection and scope of work of any consultant shall be subject to further resolution by the board.
Second.
Ms. Rando?
Yes.
Mr. Quigley?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
No.
Thank you.
Ms. Hugh?
If I could just make one clarification based upon the last discussion, that there are different funds within the township, and so the funds that get spent on recreational
Well,
park
who are
facilities.
you?
I'm Beth Hugh, with Orange Township, I'm the Maintenance and Parks Director.
Oh, okay, I
talked to you
know.
before.
Okay, I didn't recognize,
Right.
okay.
There's a park levy fund that puts money towards these types of things with the community center and the trails and the parks, and then there's the road fund. So we can't take park money and put it into guardrail on Vale and or vice versa. But I do have your contact information, and I would like to talk to you about the specific location that you're talking about on Vale. So I'll give you a call this week, Steve.
Thank you.
Okay. Great, purchase orders. I've gone through everything with Columbus Pool Management. There's a couple of modifications and clarifications that they needed of some additional backup, so there will be a couple other purchase orders at the next meeting. But there's 4 on for this evening. One is for $1,313.43 for repairs and maintenance for pools and concessions. The next one is for $726. These are individual swim lessons. We've separated that out from the sessions. We're doing applications now, paying the CPM pays the lifeguards that teach those off on their off hours, and then we pay CPM for that. And then Columbus Pool Management, swim lessons, session 2, 3, and 4. There's additional backup coming for session 1, $7,416.75. And then the last one is for $1,730. This is for lifeguards and concession workers for the night swims and the barbecues.
Any questions?
Was there wasn't there a night swim in August?
Yes, this is just for 2 of the night swims and the barbecue. There's additional backup that's needed.
We haven't got, have we?
I don't have it yet for the other 2 night swims.
No questions.
I make the motion to authorize a purchase order to Columbus Pool Management in the amount of $1,313.43 for repairs and equipment for pools and concession supplies.
Second?
Ms. Rando?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes?
Mr. Quigley?
Yes.
I make the motion to authorize a purchase order to Columbus Pool Management in the amount of $726 for individual swim lessons.
Second.
Mr. Rando?
Yes.
Mr. Quigley?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes.
I make the motion to authorize a purchase order to Columbus Pool Management in the amount of $7,416.75 for swim lessons, sessions number 1, number 3, and number 4.
Number 2, 3, and 4.
2, 3, and 4.
Second.
Mr. Rando?
Yes.
Mr. Quigley?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes.
I make the motion to authorize a purchase order to Columbus Pool Management in the amount of $1,730 for lifeguards and concession workers for night swims, June 15th, 2012, and July 30th, 2012, and the barbecue on July 28th, 2012.
It's July 13th. You said 30.
You know, I didn't bring my glasses. I'm sorry, July 13th.
Second.
Ms. Rando?
Yes.
Mr. Quigley?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes.
Moving on to the maintenance report.
While we're still on parks, can I just make a reminder that the Metro Parks Trail ribbon cutting is Wednesday at 10 o'clock. I don't have a final location. Metro Parks is finalizing that. As soon as I get a notice, I'll email.
It's not going to be right there by Skyline.
We're looking for what the best it probably will be. They're contacting the manager at Skyline to make sure that it's okay for parking to occur there and then cross the street. That's probably the best spot, the most parking and closest to the street. Otherwise, it would be from the ranger station and coming out, so.
Has the Parks Board been notified of the ribbon cutting?
Yes.
They have.
Beth, what time was that again?
10 o'clock.
10 a.m.
Are we putting that on the listserv?
We can put it on the website and the listserv. We'll send it out tomorrow.
Thank you.
That was a good question.
Moving on to the maintenance report.
First item is accept road and improvements. This would include the speed limit and stop conditions. You might need glasses for this one.
I don't have any questions.
So we're just accepting these roads?
These are the roads that have been inspected and accepted by the commissioners in the new Meadows facility development up off of Lewis Center Road.
These are all new roads?
Basically, you're acknowledging the acceptance of the roads by the county.
Okay.
Any questions? Read all that, huh?
Do you want me to read it for you?
It feels on the next page.
Well, yeah, do you mind?
Do you want me to
No,
read
that's
his
fine.
glasses?
You want to do the first one? Or you want me to do it first?
Yeah, just.
Okay. I can make a motion to acknowledge the addition of the following roads. 0.05 additional miles of Township Road 1614 Kilbourne Way. 0.024 additional miles of Township Road 1615 Coaster Trace. 0.09 additional miles of Township Road 1616 McCumber Lane. 0.09 additional miles of Township Road 1617 McCumber Loop. 0.09 additional miles of Township Road 1618 Delano Avenue, for a total of 0.56 miles.
Second.
Mr. Quigley?
Yes.
Ms. Franco?
Yes.
Ms. Knappman?
Yes.
I can make a motion, whereas RC Section 4511.21K5 authorize the Board of Township Trustees. Just want to make sure. Thanks.
It's several years old.
Okay.
And it's written in anticipation of a heck of a fight once you started into the business. So
Gotcha.
maybe time to revisit it.
Declare a reasonable and safe prima facie speed limit of less than 55 miles per hour, but not less than 25 miles per hour, upon the finding that the prima facie permitted speed of 55 miles per hour is greater than reasonable and safe in regard to certain township highways, and whereas such authority is limited to those highways under township jurisdiction which are located within commercial or residential subdivisions. And whereas residents of subdivisions within a township have indicated that such a prima facie limit of 55 miles per hour is greater than reasonable and safe, and have asked for lower speed limits to promote health, safety, and welfare to their neighborhoods. And whereas the Board of Township Trustees have conducted an investigation of those township highways listed in the attached Exhibit A and have received a recommendation from the Delaware County Engineer's Office of Delaware County Commissioners regarding the appropriate speed limit which should be established for such highways. And whereas the Delaware County Engineer's Office has previously, by letter to the Board dated January 16, 2004, confirmed that prior to making such a recommendation to the Commissioners, it is practice and policy of the Delaware County Engineer's Office to conduct an engineering and traffic investigation as to each affected road. And whereas that correspondence stated that the belief of the Delaware County Engineer's Office that the practice of policy and resulting recommendation of the Delaware County Engineer satisfies the requirement of RC 4511.21K5 for an engineering and traffic investigation, and that the Board, upon being presented with a copy of such document, thus has a basis upon which to establish speed limit conforming with the recommendation. And whereas the correspondence further advised the Board that pending further written notice from the office, it may rely upon such a written recommendation of Delaware County Engineer's Office to the Commissioners as being in compliance with the foregoing, and that the speed limit recommended therein and appropriate on the streets of platted subdivisions that are the subject of the document. And whereas the correspondence further advised the Board that the foregoing applies to recommendations received in the future and to such recommendations as may have been received bearing a date subsequent to May 18, 1998. And whereas upon such basis, it is the finding of the Board that the Delaware County Engineer's Office has reviewed those township highways listed in Exhibit A and found them to be appropriate with a prima facie permitted speed of 25 miles per hour. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Township Trustees of Orange Township, Delaware County, Ohio, upon the basis of investigation conducted and a recommendation received from Delaware County Engineer's Office, find that the prima facie speed limit of 55 miles per hour set forth in RC 4511.21B5 is greater than is reasonable and safe under conditions existing location of the township highways listed in attached Exhibit A. Be it further resolved that the Board finds the highway listed in the attached Exhibit A are located within residential and commercial subdivisions of the township outside the limits of a municipal corporation, and that all requirements of RC 4511.21K5 have been met or satisfied. Be it further resolved that the Board declares the reasonable and safe prima facie speed limit upon those township highways listed in attached Exhibit A to 25 miles per hour. Be it further resolved that the maintenance supervisor is hereby directed to erect appropriate signage, given notice the altered speed limit as soon as possible so that the enforcement may begin. And with the notion that a stop condition be established in the following roads. On Township Road 1614 Kilbourne Way at the intersection with County Road number 106 Lewis Center Road, on Township Road number 1615 Keister Trace in the intersection with Keister Trace, is that what it is? Keister?
Kester, I think.
Kester. This intersection with Township Road number 1614 Kilbourne Way. On Township Road 1615 Coaster Trace in the intersection with Township Road number 1615 McCumber Lane. On Township Road number 1617 McCumber Loop at its that was great. And its intersection with Township Road number 1615 Coaster Trace. On Township Road 1617 McCumber Loop at the intersection with Township Road number 1616 McCumber Lane. On Township Road number 1618, Delano Avenue at its intersection with the Township Road 1615 Coaster Trace. On Township Road number 1618, Delano Avenue, its intersection with Township Road number 1616 McCumber Lane.
Mr. Quigley?
Yes.
Ms. Taranto?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes.
Moving on to resolution to install no outlet sign. I'm sorry, go ahead.
You did a good job.
You made me read it, so I just kept going.
Reinstall no outlet sign at Tall Pine Drive.
Correct. We had a request from a resident to install that. We looked at it. It fits the criteria that we've done it for other no outlet roads. You can't see the bulb of the cul-de-sac. It's surrounded by cul-de-sacs basically, but you can't see the cul-de-sac, so you don't know that it does not go further north into the school. So.
What is the procedure for requesting a no outlet sign with the township?
It's typically an email is what I get, or a phone call requesting it. It's brought to the trustees for approval. We'll look at it. If it's not something that's in the uniform manual for traffic control devices, then it goes to, as a request for engineering, to the Delaware County engineers.
So what is there criteria that we approve this on, or do you just, you go out and take a look at the site?
We go out and take a look.
And if you think it...
plowed this several times. You can't tell when you enter into the road that it is not a through condition.
So people get a lot of through traffic, okay. And then, so how many of those do you install a year?
Depends upon the request. I think we installed 2 last year.
2?
But the year before, I don't think we installed any. We may have replaced one that was knocked down.
Okay, thanks.
I move the adoption of the following resolution, whereas section 4511.11 of the Ohio Revised Code directs local authorities to place and maintain traffic control devices in accordance with the Department of Transportation Manual for a uniform system of traffic control devices upon highways under their jurisdiction as necessary to carry out provisions of the Ohio Revised Code or to regulate, warn, or guide traffic. And whereas the Delaware County Engineers Office has reviewed the erection and placement of certain traffic control devices at the request of the township and provided its guidance. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Township Trustees of Orange Township, Delaware County, Ohio, having reviewed the guidance of the Delaware County Engineers Office, directs the Maintenance and Parks Director to erect the following traffic control device. A warning sign reading "No Outlet" to be placed at Tall Pine Drive.
Second.
Ms. Taranto?
Yes.
Mr. Quigley?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes.
Next item are purchase orders. One for Henderson Truck Company, $49,940. This is the dump body and plow system for the new truck that should be in sometime this month, beginning of next month.
So we're equipping the new truck with that.
Do we have a resolution for that?
Beth, is this the truck you bought through ODOT? Good.
I'll make a motion to authorize a purchase order to Henderson Truck Equipment, Ohio, in the amount of $49,940 for dump body and plow system for new truck.
Second?
Ms. Taranto?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes.
Mr. Quigley?
Yes.
Okay, next purchase order is to Tippman Industrial Products. This is a propane hammer that allows us to install posts for road signage in a more efficient, more secure manner. We've done them by hand in the past. The guys stand on the back of the truck and hand pound them in, and so this has been requested, and I think it's a useful piece. It's actually being purchased out of the FEMA account funds.
Any questions?
Is that something that lasts for quite a while, that
Yes.
equipment? It's pretty, yep, no more questions.
I make the motion to authorize a purchase order to Tittman Industrial Products in the amount of $2,313 for purchase of a propane hammer.
Second?
Ms. Taranto?
Yes.
Mr. Quigley?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes.
Moving on to the next item. Public safety, there's no items in there. Old business, continuation and discussion of trees and right-of-way.
We've done a number of things since last discussion. I've provided you with a breakdown by address and really kind of location for the trees, along with the estimate that I've done based upon the bids that the county has gotten for tree removal service, tree clearing. I've had numerous discussions with Mr. McCarthy regarding prevailing wage. And I also had a discussion with the tree barber who is coming to remove the trees in the back nature area. They are on the tree clearing bid contract with the county, and they confirmed what we had discussed last time, that basically they would want to go out by location and give a final bid. The bids that are provided to the county are based upon right-of-way tree removal, but there could be other factors such as location, condition of the tree, wires, etc. In this estimate, I've added $200 per tree if they're in the wires, just to be kind of on the safe side. That still leaves us under the bid threshold, which would then not put us into prevailing wage as well.
The prevailing wage aspect is a function of the nature of the work that's being performed, not the dollar amount. But we did get the confirmation from industrial relations that that type of work with no follow-on activity is not. It's
Tree
exempt.
removal only, correct. And the question, first question before the board would still be if we're going to proceed with this, and then under what provisions, whether it's ash trees only, whether it's main roads only, which is basically what we've done the inventory on, etc.
Are we taking, have we talked about taking trees down, and what's our policy on taking dead ash trees down in the parks, like ones that are near trails?
If they're in a nature area that is inactive, such as behind us, it's been that we don't remove them. What we're removing back there has fallen, and so if someone climbed on it or was playing on it, it could potentially fall. So those are being just dropped to the ground. In the active play area, such as row, we are actively removing those and looking at ways to replant because it's an active park portion of the park.
So just within the active portion?
Just within that, that's the only area right now that we're looking to remove ash trees.
What about the ash trees like on that little trail that goes through the woods? Not.
At row?
Yeah,
We have the playground area, the nature area, and then the baseball fields. That is the area where we're actively removing.
Yeah, I mean,
Taking
with the
down.
forest, there's the woods in between with the trails, or no trees are being removed.
Those are the ones, those are the trees that we're
In-
removing because that's an active play area.
And the woods is considered an active play area?
Because there's trails.
Because there's trails. Now, are you removing them just from near the trails or
No,
within
we're removing all of them.
Good. Is that the policy everywhere? Like, you remove trees back here if they're on the trails? the dead trees?
No, because that's an inactive area. The only thing that we take down and drop to the ground are trees that have broken, that are still hung up in the canopy that could fall.
So what's the difference between like the trails that go through the woods at Road and like the trails that go through the woods here?
The trail doesn't go through the woods here. It
goes along the woods.
Adjacent to. If there's a dead tree that we suspect could have issues and fall into the trail, there was one down along the bridge a couple weeks ago, just been termite ridden, and it was done. That was removed.
So that's considered not an active area then, where the trails are right there?
I'm going to take a 5-minute break.
Sure.
No. No, you're fine. Thank you so much. Hey, Mary Ann, you ready? Session. Continuation, tree discussion. Are you waiting on us?
I don't know that I have anything else to say.
I'll open up for the trustees for discussion.
What was the total estimated cost?
$42,600 with adding $200 to trees within the wires. And then if we're doing non-ash trees, there's a reduction of $40,300, correct? Yeah, I already sent that out.
Everybody meaning the trustees, right? So where would we get the money from?
Mr. Quigley and I actually had spoken, and I talked to Mr. Spitzer and Ms. Martin. There is some money budgeted right now for improvements upon this building, one of them being the windows behind you and the carpeting. There's some issues with the windowsill that we're getting some water damage, and we'd like to get it addressed before it gets too bad. We spoke about getting estimates for that, and any balance remaining could be put towards this fund. We also spoke about the possibility of identifying the trees this year and budgeting for it next year. There are some different options. It would be up to the trustees.
Do you think there are a lot more ash trees that will die, or?
Yes.
You think
I think what we do this year would need to be repeated in the next 12 months.
I spoke with Mr. Link down in Delaware County,
Mm-hmm.
and they're anticipating that it's actually going to get worse in 2014 before it starts kind of dying off.
Why is that?
The ash trees right now.
There's some that are still alive now that'll be dead by 2014.
And that's also being compounded. The ash trees that are dead right now are dead because of the ash borer. There's a longhorn beetle that has just been identified in the last couple of years. It affects not only ash trees, but maple trees as well severely. This is an ongoing piece once it's tackled. So,
do we have dead ash trees as a result of that beetle?
we don't have a longhorn yet in this location, to my understanding, but it's anticipated. I know that they have ODNR was looking for identifiers and people to start tracking that and educate them on how to identify that.
When's it expected to get here? Do you have any clue?
I don't know.
No. So it looks like this will be an ongoing issue, so we should probably start budgeting for it every year.
Well, as Ms. Hugh mentioned, probably because we create another account, obviously, for budgeting for this future, create that account, and for this year, if the board wants to move forward, take the remaining funds, what's been allocated for capital improvements in this building that's not going to be utilized, move it over and utilize that, and then next year budget a certain X amount for next year.
Do you know how much money we would have left over, or how much we've used of that account?
That's
so
what
far?
she mentioned, that she needs to go ahead and get an estimate for all that work, the required work that needs to be done this year.
But what's the balance in that fund right now?
So just over $100,000.
We said like 125,000 or something like that.
Something like that.
And do you know how much we've used of it yet?
We haven't used anything of it yet.
Okay.
Right, but some of the requirements for replacement of these windows,
Right. Well, actually, I take that back. There's $294 that I approved today to rewrap the columns out front.
So that's all of that 125,000? Is that, would that be used for any other projects here in the next few months that you know of?
I'm meeting with Mr. Ray on that. I know that there's some windows that we've had some issues with, some carpeting. We had the floor jacked up about a year and a half ago, and we've been monitoring that. That's why there's no carpet behind you. And it's panned out. There's not been any issue with that. We've been kind of experimenting with carpet squares in the community room. We kind of like how that's working out from a replacement standpoint. That will probably be the proposal for this room. We're looking for something that matches close enough to the existing carpet that we would tie into without having to replace everything in the building.
So are those the only projects that we know of for the...
That and the windows right now.
Could the windows cost $125,000?
The proposal is these windows right now go all the way to the floor. When they're replaced, they would either have to be replaced to the length that they are with safety glass, which is extremely expensive, or what Mr. Ray and I have been talking about is raising the height of the windows so that to the level that where they don't need safety glass, and then that would also raise the level outside to the moisture and get it away from the ground a little more as well.
Is that the issue?
That-
They're going out to the ground?
Correct.
What cost do you have any?
We don't have an estimate yet.
None? Just these windows?
And we're also looking at a garage door down in the maintenance building as well. We're getting estimates for that now. It's $2,000 to $3,000, I believe, to convert that door from man doors to a roll-up door so that we can fit a vehicle in there. The Kubota actually doesn't fit. So.
Is that $125,000 what is usually put in that account, or was it anticipated that this work would need to be done?
It was anticipated that we've been talking about the garage door, I think, since I got here. We've been trying to put it off. When the Kubota came and we realized that it didn't fit, it became more of a priority. It's now over at North Orange, but when it starts to snow, it really needs to be here. This is where our trails are. The majority of the trails that we would be plowing this year.
So it's possible we wouldn't possibly have enough money to do the trees.
I would anticipate that there would be some funds left, but I don't know what that dollar amount is just yet.
But pretty much the proposal there is to find what is available there, that way we can, well, we obviously still got to create the account for the continued budgeting of that. But at the same time, see what's remaining to move over, determine whether or not we just want to cap it at that limit and then budget the rest for next year, or make a decision from there. Those are one of the options.
Say those options again.
Well, that option basically is go ahead and take a look at those capital improvements we're looking at for the building here that you mentioned, the windows and the garage. And then whatever funds are remaining, take that and move them over into the fund created for tree removal. And then we can determine then, is it enough to cover what's here on this list? If it's not, go from approach of saying we're gonna do this section first and then budget next year for this amount plus additional amount for additional ones at that. Take it from that approach right there. That way we're not, so essentially we're shifting funds from one account to another, but we're not.
Under the capital
Yeah,
account.
capital. I guess the first question is, with what's being proposed, do we want to continue moving forward with this idea of removing these trees? I guess that's really the first thing we need to know.
Correct.
No, I would like to. I think that for safety reasons, I think we should go ahead and do that. Apparently the city of Columbus also goes around and cuts down trees as soon as they're dead in active areas.
Not or close to anywhere I live around.
Or in the park, in the
Columbus.
Parks Department.
Yeah. Not on the roadways, because I travel James and.
So on the roads or the parks?
Throughout the parks, apparently, even around some of the, like, farther out beyond the trails, once they see they're dead.
So not the roads.
So move more to parks, the Columbus area.
I'm not sure, I've not checked their really big main roads, just the park system.
So does the board want to move forward pursuing an option for tree removal on the main roads?
Yeah, I do. Are we deciding it tonight?
Well, I mean, she's already going ahead, she's going to at least move forward and try to get the estimates for what's going on with this building here and find out how many funds. I mean, you're going to do that anyway. If the board wants to wait until she comes back with that estimate to make a decision then of what direction you want to go, that's up to the board.
How long would that take by the next meeting?
Probably not. And I think that we want to get a number of estimates. I think that we need to look, depending upon what those estimates are, it may need to go out to bid. And so I would just caution the board that with the drought, the leaves are dropping earlier. Once the leaves drop, I can't identify a dead tree. And even though we have, pretty much an inventory, I can't tell you that we can go out and identify every one of these trees right now that we've already been talking about, let alone anything new or anything like that. So if we wanted to start removing trees in November, December, January or something, I couldn't do that unless they were marked and approved by the board to do that.
So you're asking to just mark them now?
I'm saying that I think that we need to make a decision whether we're going to remove trees or not remove trees. At that point, we could discuss how we move forward with that.
I would like to remove the trees as soon as possible.
What are your thoughts?
Yeah, we can go ahead and move forward on that.
So from that standpoint, go ahead and stick to the main roads that you've identified here. If you need to mark them, I guess go ahead. But we need to still look at the financial side of it, have a better understanding of what's available for us to see how much what we'd like to do to move forward.
So we're not deciding, I don't understand what we're deciding.
Well, right now we're deciding to go ahead and move forward, because if we're going to move forward, she at least wants to go ahead and mark the trees before all the leaves fall off of them. That's one of the issues. But also go ahead and look at that, create the account that's needed to put funds into, but also go ahead and take a look at the current capital fund for improvements here, find out what the remaining balance is, and find out from that standpoint what we have left to work with for this year, and whatever the decision the board wants to take from that standpoint. But right now, she didn't know if we want to move forward.
So the step she's going to take next is getting estimates for the window and then marking all the trees?
Correct.
trees that are kind of dangerous? Did you say a couple that they're at risk somewhere?
I think the ones that are, in my personal opinion, the ones that are most dangerous still have leaves on them, and they're not ash trees. They're canopies in Big Walnut and canopies on West Orange.
And you think they're gonna fall?
I think that this next storm, those are the trees that we picked up in the last 2 storms, were trees that had leaves on them in a canopied area.
But you can tell that they will probably come down?
No, in a million years, I wouldn't have guessed that these
Right.
trees would have come down in the storm.
Right, well, those are the ones we can't predict. I mean, you said there's a few large dead trees that were, which dead trees?
There's 2 oak trees that are dead,
Right,
on
there's
West
one we're
Orange.
talking about.
and those would not be included in this if we're only doing ash trees.
Right, but to your point though, there's live trees that have big canopies that are alive.
Correct.
That they come down before dead trees have.
Oh, sure, yeah,
So,
because there's an
It's not
internal
necessarily a
rot.
dead tree that's gonna be the most, but,
All right, but you can't tell which tree has rotted unless you do an ultrasound, so.
no, I'm just saying, no, in general, even with a dead tree, you don't know if it's gonna be the one that's gonna drop or not.
Well, eventually, a dead tree will probably drop. Are we gonna do oak trees and ash trees, or just ash trees, or?
Again, like I said, when I went out looking, the worst trees were not the ash trees, those were the oak trees.
Right, which is why I asked the question.
So common sense would say that yes, we should take those down also.
I think at this point, I would say stick to the main roads that you've identified here.
Okay.
For all dead trees?
Say ash is a priority from the standpoint of the
But there's
So-
two
the
dead
epidemic,
oak
but
trees.
then go ahead, like this, Toronto stated, from a common sense standpoint, if those are there, we're already mobilized, we might as well go ahead and take care of those.
Right, that was my point, that there's 2 that she said were very dangerous, and I would hate for those to wait much longer.
But again, that's what we're moving towards, we're gonna go ahead and get those, find out like, from the previous discussion, you don't know exactly which tree's gonna fall, when and where. In your
Right.
thought, there is a possible bigger potential with these, but you don't know for sure. We don't know in general for sure unless we have an arborist come out and say this tree's gonna drop tomorrow.
Right,
Okay?
and I don't know if it's
Or
going to
I
fall
could look
over
at a
the
dead
road
tree,
or
a
back
tree
on the
that's alive
property.
next to it get blown over by the storm. I mean,
Right.
that just happens with trees.
Right.
We don't know what their root system is unless we get into it. I mean, there's so many different factors there, so.
Right.
I would say go ahead, from a standpoint that our main goal objective is taking care of the ash trees, but from a common sense standpoint, since we're already mobilized, take care of the ones that are dead at that point. And use it from, I would say that's the approach I would look at. The ash trees are the target, but since we're mobilized, if there's additional larger ones that are outside that, we take care of it from a common sense standpoint.
Yeah, that's not giving her very specific guidance. I mean, she'll be looking, going, well, is this one it's an oak tree, is it big enough? I mean,
If it's dead in the right of way
That's
on
pretty
these
much the
streets, we're
guideline.
going to remove it.
Right.
Is that not
okay,
correct?
is that it? That's.
Well, that's pretty much it. If it's
That's
common
right.
sense that it's dead, then go ahead and remove it.
Yeah, so it doesn't matter if it's an ash tree or it's a, who knows what tree, all trees.
What I'm saying though is that our priority is ash trees. In other words, what we're doing is primarily for the fact that we have an epidemic in ash trees.
Oh, so
But
the
since
reason.
since we're
okay.
mobilized, we're gonna go ahead from a common sense standpoint, take care of the other dead trees that we see because it's cost effective while we're already mobilized to take care of those additional dead trees.
All right, so you're giving the reason
I'm
why
giving,
we're doing this, okay.
this is the reasons for it, so that down the road, when it becomes a discussion again, we know that our priority here was for the ash trees, but we just, since we're mobilized, we were doing this in conjunction with.
Right, I was just making sure that she knew what she was supposed to do from us. That's all, my concern.
So moving forward, we'll go ahead and start marking the trees immediately. We'll move forward with the estimates for the budget numbers. I would like to, at the next meeting, between now and then, work with Mr. McCarthy for a resolution that the board could then pass that would put out to the public exactly what we're looking at. It won't say when we're removing these, but we are looking to remove them. And so when I get phone calls from neighboring streets saying, hey, I hear you're removing trees, this is the backup, so that we have support for that.
Right.
And it's an understanding that we can spread throughout the township, that they are main roads only, and basically dead ash trees.
Where are we publishing that? What
It would
is-
be a resolution, and
Oh,
so
right, just a
that's
resolution
the
for
information that I
for the
have.
meeting, okay.
Mhm.
I thought you were saying you were going to distribute it. So there's a consensus for her to mark the trees and
Yep, there's,
obtain estimates?
I believe so. We have a consensus to move forward to mark those trees. Go ahead and get the resolution created. Look at creating the line item, and as well as looking at where the funds are going.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Moving on to the next item, which is the website proposal discussion and possible action. Ms. Mesmer, did you receive any additional responses?
No, I had resubmittals by the two companies that already had submitted previously.
Just to focus on the requirements?
Yes. Yes, they were very specific in answering the questions for the most part. Again, I would recommend you go with Civic Plus with a 3-year agreement. He has priced out 2 levels, if you decide that one's appropriate. One includes a complete redesign in year 4, the other does not, unless we pay for it at that point. We're seeing how quickly things change. We've had 2 redesigns in the past 5 years.
Right.
So it may be well worth the investment.
So the redesign for the Civic Plus was like about $20,000.
That's the total for the 3 years.
Or for the, including the first year and the redesign. And what's the other option?
The other one will be $18,000 for Civic Plus for 3 years for without a redesign in year 4.
$18,000 for all 3 years
Yes.
with no redesign. That's just the hosting.
Yes. That's the current redesign, but not a redesign in year 4. The 9400 is a current redesign with a redesign in year 4 as well.
Now, and there was a $9,497 annual fee.
Say that again?
The $9,497 annual fee.
That includes the redesign. Generally, the annual fee is probably $4,000. And it's included in this 3-year payout. We could pay them $20,000 up front and then continue on with a $4,000 annual fee after the 3rd year again. But that's all inclusive in the total $94.97 annual fee. Or, I'm sorry, the annual payment. That includes the redesign fee as well as the annual support fee.
Now, how did that compare with the active software?
ActiveNet, I think just the recreation portion is close to $12,000. And their proposal is $5,000 for an upgrade, a redesign of 25 pages. Any additional pages would be additional fees. So they're quite a bit higher. She's redone this cost estimate as well, so they're about $7,000 for the redesign of 25 pages, and we have probably at least 75 that we need to do.
They seemed also retail focused to me, the Active Network did, whereas Civic really was more government minded, seemed more geared towards what we're looking for as far as a government run website.
I think with Civic Plus, they also have the ability to be more flexible and to work more directly with us to redesign what we need, especially for the online registration, the online reservations.
Plus, there was no limit on the customer support. That impressed me, the 24/7. Plus the training hours. The other ones seemed to be very limited on the training hours, and then wanted to charge you extra above and beyond.
And where is Civic Plus, where are they based out of?
He has a local office here, and I think they're based out of Kansas.
What's the rep's name?
CJ Kowalski.
So what are we paying right now? What are we paying right now?
Right now, we're not paying a whole lot of anything, and we haven't for years. I think last time we redesigned something, we paid about, maybe between $2,000 and $3,000 for the entire redesign of the website when Mr. Katz was in charge of that.
That wasn't last, was it last year?
Now, the last redesign, there was a lot of, Nancy, myself, worked with InfoLink, at which there was a lot of input, design done by Nancy, InfoLink, and myself.
When was that? Was that last fall?
Well, it finally got released last fall, but there was a lot of time up to that point.
Right.
We started that process, I think, early that year, trying to get all the information gathered and developing it, because there was a lot of time involved with it.
And Assistant Chief Noble also helped with the major part of the fire department.
Getting all the information together. And
We had Beth's input with all the park pages as well.
And when would this be up and running then with Civic Plus?
well, there's within the proposal here, it actually tells you their time frame.
Right. And who would be authorized to make changes or calls or things like that?
That's a whole process that can be built into the website itself, so that anybody can submit their proposals for changes or their articles, and it would just go through the routine of having probably one person in charge of the final approval.
Ultimately, once it gets set up, Nancy will be the primary
Right.
contact
Yes.
for that.
Yes.
All right, but it would take a lot of work to get it set up. Or whatever we decide, I'd like to be copied on everything having to do with it, please. Like meetings are being held and things like that. So I would be interested in speaking with the representatives also.
So what is the board's thoughts on either one of these two options, Active Network or Civic Plus? Sounds like Trustee Toronto is pretty much in favor of Civic Plus.
What are you in favor of, Trustee Quigley?
I actually agree. I think Civic Plus is a lot more oriented to what we're looking for. Government focus, Active Network did more or less come out of more of the recreational environment, so they're coming in from a different direction. They built their focus on government in general, so I think they have a good grasp on what they're doing. I like how they outline their development, the project development.
They're very specific.
Yes.
Yeah, very.
So I think they did a great job in the response, explanation of what they're going to do. They are a little bit cheap, a little bit less expensive than the other Active Network.
Overall,
So overall, I think Civic Plus is a good choice.
do we sign an annual contract?
It's a 3-year contract.
All right. So what would the total cost be?
For the first 3 years, be $20,000 and
Depends on the option.
$31.
The total of $20,031?
Right. Split out into 94, 97 per year for 3 years.
Oh, so that includes like interest payments or?
Well,
There's no interest, there are no fees in addition.
That's all.
What they've done is added the development costs and then the second and third year annual amount, and then they split it into three payments.
you have the choice of either doing a 1-year contract essentially or a 3-year contract. The 1-year contract, you're paying all the fees up front, which is $20,000 with a $4,000 plus maintenance and hosting fee every year. What they're saying is that if you sign a 3-year contract, they'll break it across that time frame at $20,000. That 9,000 is 9,000. That also includes the maintenance hosting. So
Right, I was trying to
year
figure
one,
out the difference between those two.
year one is $20,000, and that includes the maintenance for the first year.
Yeah.
Year 2 and 3 would be an additional $4,000. What they're saying is if you took that $20,000 plus the $8,000 and signed a 3-year contract, they'll go ahead and it'll be at $9,000 a year.
So it's cheaper to sign the 3-year contract. So what is the purpose of us doing this? Redesigning the website?
Doing what, the website?
Yeah, redesigning it.
Well, we've had issues with the listserv that you pointed out, that we want to go ahead and make that more robust so that we can have multiple listservs. We've had other issues. We want to go ahead and move into online membership capabilities. We're talking about being able to provide
Point of sale.
point of sale, as well as putting more documents online. So, I mean, there's just quite a few things on there.
Right.
Shelter, house
People-
reservations, right?
Yeah.
Community room.
People can sign up for things online.
I know that you've been wanting a website for a while now. Is this something that you're interested in?
Oh, me? Oh, yeah, I'm interested. It's just, it's still a lot of money. We should probably clarify where we're doing it for the record. Yeah, I think if it runs well, I would like to have input into that though, into all of it, whenever it starts up.
All of the elected officials and department heads will have input into the design and function.
It's no different than we did last time. So.
Right.
Right, and also the day-to-day operations. I would like to be copied on things like that. I mean, I don't want to be kept out of the loop. The Civic Plus does seem to be the most, of these that we got, the most government-minded. There are other companies out there that do it, but they're the ones that responded, so.
They just offer a lot more support, a lot more assistance, a lot more training.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that whatever we decide that this is all implemented, like we're saying it's going to be implemented. I want all this stuff in place as soon as possible. I don't want to spend all this money and then
It is a
find out.
process, though. It's about a 6-month process.
Right. So at the end of 6 months, I would like to be up and running if we're going to spend this much money. I mean, otherwise we might as well not do anything.
I'm sure that the company's intention would be to get it up and running within a time period.
All right, but a lot of these things that to get on the website are going to be pretty staff labor intensive to get, it's going to take a lot of staff time to do all
But
of
we had a
this.
lot of the information already gathered from the website we did last time. We're just taking a lot of that already, which is great because we have a good foundation. That's the reason why we put in there and that they go ahead and develop, so we replicate what we already have on there.
On
And
our
we'll
current
develop on
website?
that. Yes.
The current one?
That's the reason why they have that 50 pages, is it?
Right.
For development?
Yes.
They're essentially going to take somewhat redevelop what we already have,
Right.
and then we're just going to add to that. So it's not,
It's going to be completely different. It's going to be completely different. This is so much more complicated. It's in a good way. It's so much more complicated. And just putting forms online and talking to Beth about how the rules and just, it's going to take a lot of staff. It's going to take a lot of staff time to get it right. Of our staff time. I just want to be realistic about that. If we're expecting it to be up in 6 months, I mean, putting all these features online that we've never had online is, from what I've heard, is.
No, I agree, and that's the reason why I was pushing to get it 2 weeks ago, so that we get this moving.
Well, 2 week delay
So
isn't a big deal.
So if everybody's good, well, it is, like you said, it's gonna take a lot of staff time, so this thing delay. So if everybody's good with Civic Plus, the next question then is, do you wanna do the 3-year or do the 1 year?
So for the 1 year, we paid the $20,031 for 1 year, including the support.
1 year includes the support, the $20,000 includes the support.
And the redesign.
And the redesign.
Redesign, right.
And then the additional maintenance per year after that, posting is $4,000. If you want to do it over a 3-year, $20,000 plus that maintenance fee is all grouped together, and it's an even cost across those 3 years.
How
What
much
would
do
you-
we have appropriated for the website? Do we have the money?
What was your question?
How much have we have appropriated for a new website? We appropriated funds for.
Scanning and management, document
Right.
management, at, right now there's 62,000 left in that fund. Part of that has to do with the fiber, and the
Right.
fiber installation.
We still have some equipment to look at that as well,
Yes.
so we have to be careful with that. But I do know, I mean, we talked about that with online management. I don't know if we had anything budgeted on the park side. You already used it though, probably part of the,
We didn't specifically budget.
okay.
Any of the large dollar pieces that we were doing, I thought we'd kind of come to the conclusion for a 3-month period
Yeah,
until the community center came online. It didn't make sense for that kind of an expenditure for 3 months out of the year.
that's right. So the question really comes down to, do you want to get put into a 3-year term, or do you want to do a 1-year term and provide the flexibility of options after that? Let's say if you're going to invest that kind of money into 1 year, you might want to utilize it for more than 1 year. So I might say that the 3-year might be a better option.
What I like too about this company is you own it. I mean, literally, absolutely everything. If you decide to walk away, they hand it all over to you. Some of the companies won't give you everything. Their coding, close coding, and that kind of thing. But yeah, the 3-year, I'm fine with the 3-year.
So if we went with the year to year, what was it, about $4,500 per year for the year 2 and year 3? What was it?
It's in the proposal here, it's stated as for maintenance, if you're doing the first year of a complete purchase, it'll be $4,442 a year. And that's on the with the redesign.
On the what, sorry?
That's with the redesign.
So if we sign a 3-year, then if we're not happy with them, we're still stuck with them for 3 years?
That would be the downside to 3 years, would be that you're involved in a 3-year contract. Whereas with the 1 year, again, it all depends on how you want to look at it. If you do 1 year, you're spending X amount up front. Are you going to go ahead and turn around and do that again, year 2, to completely dislike them? I don't know, that's a question for the board.
What is, go ahead.
Then the other question then is, or do you want to take the approach that we don't want to spend all that up front, we like to spread it across a 3-year contract and take it from that
Do they
approach.
want the $20,000 right away?
That would be the total fees for
Immediately,
year
for
1.
the first year. Great, so if we went with the 3-year contract, it looks like, so it looks like if we went with the 3-year contract, the total cost would be $28,491. But then if we went with the 1-year contract and then added the 2 additional years, it's $29,915.
No. What they're saying here is it's the 1-year contract is $20,000. That includes the maintenance.
Right.
Each year after that, if we continue on with them, the maintenance will be $4,442.
Right.
So you would be adding $8,000, okay.
That's $28,915.
Right.
And then if we do the 3-year contract, the total cost would be $28,491. So you're talking about like $414 more to sign, to just have a 1-year contract. I feel more comfortable having a 1 year. That way, if something goes terribly wrong, we'll have the website. I mean, that's a negligible difference between the two. And that way, if something really goes wrong, we can get out, start with a new company. I don't think that means we'd have to redesign it. I don't want to get locked into 3 years. It just seems, and you're not really getting a big cost benefit by locking yourself into 3 years. Unless there's something there in this.
No, again, like I said earlier, from a board standpoint, it depends how much you want to spend up front and where you're going to get the funds from to pay for it. Or do you feel more comfortable, go ahead and spread it across 3 years?
Right, and another thing too, sometimes when you sign a 3-year contract, I mean, you're pretty much stuck. I think it's nice to have to sign a new contract every year because you can, you have higher, your expectations can be higher because they're not sure if you're going to renew or not. That's just my personal opinion. You sign a 3-year contract, you know, unless they breach the contract, you're pretty much just stuck with it.
CJ Quality has projected that if we sign the 1 year and then continue on with them, not only will we have to pay an additional at the end of the 4 years for redesign, but each year they add 5% to the annual fee. So we're actually getting a discount by signing the 3-year contract.
So this $4,442 goes up by 5 cents every year?
5%, yes.
5% every
For
year.
anybody on an annual basis.
And then, if we go with the 3-year contract, you're saying at the end of the 3 years, they redesign?
They do a total redesign.
For free?
Yes. It's included in that price.
Would we need to redesign in 3 years? I don't know.
It's only been a year since we designed it this time, and it was 2 years before that we designed it at that point. So
Right. This is a lot more professional, and the one we did last year, I mean, it was on a shoestring budget. It was done, a lot of it was done in-house, and it was really actually much nicer than the last one. I like it a lot, but the big reason we're trying to change is because, make a change is because of the listserv issues. But then at the same time, we're just going to go ahead and redo the whole thing.
The ability to do more online.
Right, that's right.
People, that's how they work now, is mostly online.
Right.
Yeah,
But
the look and feel is one thing which we handled very well the last time. It's now a question of how much more functionality we want to add to it, and that's the difference. It's functionality. The design workflow was a big improvement last year. We're now looking to see how do we add more functionality. We were already looking at the possibility of adding online membership, shelter, those type of things. Those are things that we can't do currently with the current one.
Right.
You were looking at additional listserv options. That's another option that we can't do right now because we're having issues with the listserv with the current provider. So it's not necessarily an aesthetic issue. It's all about functionalities of what we can add to it.
Well, right now, if our listserv was functioning normally and everyone was getting notices, then I would say not to even mess with this for another year because we have a lot of big projects going on right now.
Well, I'll tell you right now, if we're not going to do this and we're going to maintain that and come up with some kind of listserv plugin, we will find something to do online.
Right, I'm not suggesting that.
Pool management for next year.
My suggestion is this: we go full force and go ahead and implement this expensive and extensive and project that I would want it to be ready to go in 6 months. If we're gonna make all this effort to do it right now, are you understand, trying to say that, if we're gonna, I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say, but, trying to make sure that if we say we're gonna do this, we're just gonna get it done. And within 6 months, within that time frame, it's gonna be up and ready to go.
I guess I'm not seeing the concern there. I mean, they have a project plan in place. They're gonna come in and design the first 50 pages, which, utilizing a lot of things that we have, there is gonna be input. I'm not sure where the breakdown is and how it's not gonna be done. Is there variables that could push it back a week or two? Yes, that's what I was trying to explain last meeting, that sometimes projects have scope creep, and it could go into another month because it might be scope creep. We might find something else we want to do. That happens. Hopefully we can avoid that sitting down with the initial meeting and try to make sure that, we get as much as we can in there.
Right, so by the end of March, it should be hopefully up and running, or give or take a month or so. My whole point is, if we're gonna just go forward with this, we want to make sure it gets done. We can't sign it and then, oh, we couldn't get the pool sign-ups online, or this bank thing didn't work, or it's just not working right, and then what was the point of even spending all this money if it doesn't work? I guess I'm asking, are we ready to take this next step and accept the responsibility that running a website with all these different new features is going to entail?
That's what their business is all about.
I don't think we'd be here if we weren't.
Yeah, they committed to having this up and running by the beginning of the year if we get it signed.
And they have a promise.
Right.
We will work with you until you are 100% happy with the look, content, and functionality of the website.
But we do have limited staff, and I know as Hugh, it works a lot of hours, very hard, doing multiple jobs, and other people do here too, and I think this is going to take some staff time to get it right.
Well, I think if you read through this, you'll see how they break down the steps, and it's very methodical, and I think they do a good job explaining that, so you won't have a lot of wasted time by staff duplicating efforts or long term.
Well, it's not wasting time. I mean, if you're going to put pool registration online, they can't just do pool registration. We have a certain way we want to do it. We want to have a rule. We want to make sure that this is on here. We have this, all those small details that at the inception are going to take a lot of staff time and input.
Yes, well, and then it'll make it much easier.
Yeah, eventually, but it's going to be a huge amount of time now for investment for later, which I'm fine. I just want to make sure everybody's aware of that. They can't just come in here and throw up a website without knowing the way our township works and our policies and what we want.
Yep, and that's the reason why they had their timeline brainstorming session. So that will sit down and go through all those processes and what we were looking for.
Are we ready to move forward?
I'm still leaning towards doing the 1 year just because it's an unknown. That 5%, so it's a 5% increase for the last 2 years, you're saying?
What's your thought?
I don't think we're going to leave them after a year.
Oh, but you don't really know
After
that.
they do all that work, and we're guaranteeing that they'll work with us until it functions the way we want it to function.
Right, but that, who exactly are the ones who can determine whether they've worked with us or not? And that's kind of subjective. We've used that language in zoning hearings before, and Mike. I was thinking that having a 1 year contract might keep them more on their toes.
Oh, yeah, I had to cost a little different.
But the 1 year contract still costs us $20,000 up front.
Right. But in the end, we'll end up spending slightly more. How much just to redesign the website? So that's all we wanted them to do. How much is that?
And the proposal again?
It's all broken down in
I have all my
proposal.
notes. I know I left it at home, I write notes on. Because surely if they designed the first website, the cost to redo it wouldn't be $20,000 more, even 15. I think a lot of the initial work initial cost is in the work that they're doing.
It's on the page numbers and stuff.
Yeah, it's broken down, it's just the whole project itself.
There was a price breakdown.
32. 4,423. Website design. And then you have content development, number 28.
But at the end of the 3-year period, they're giving us a quote based on redesigning it right now. At the end of the 3-year period, it's still going to be a much more complex and functional website then than it is now. I think we're going from kind of a small potatoes kind of website to a very large and fancy website. And I think
Again, it's not, I mean, it's not, yeah, it's fancy from a functionality standpoint. I agree with that. I guess, either way, if your goal there is to hold them to the fire just by year, I understand that. Same time, that'd be hard to say that you're going to invest $20,000 and turn around and cut them loose and invest another $20,000 and redo it all over again.
But does another company have to redo the entire website when they come in?
That's what they do. They got to pour it over into their host, so they're going to go ahead and design it. It's not like picking it up from one website and say I'm just going to go ahead and copy what's been done over. Especially if they're not running the same content management applications back there.
But it's not as extreme of a difference between how it is now and how this is proposed. I'm leaning towards the 1 year, but, and then you can always negotiate with them for future years. I mean, they gave us that price, but who's to say that they would knock that 5% off for us to renew? At that point, we're free to negotiate with other companies, and
A 5% discount is an incentive for us to give them the security of having a 3-year contract.
right.
To design and redesign as needed, to have the support and be a partner in making sure this functions the way we want it to function.
Right, but I don't know if a 5%, I'm saying at the end of 1 year, you can still negotiate the fees for the following year. What they're saying here doesn't mean it's what it's going to be in a good year.
But I'm also hoping, it's just like what you do in any business, you're hoping to establish a relationship that's ongoing and long-term.
Right.
And it benefits both parties by
Right.
keeping the prices low, but keeping the business long-term.
Right, and part of that would be, instead of signing a 3-year contract, which pretty much we're stuck with them, and they know it, re-signing it after a year would be, I think it would keep them more monetized.
I'm ready to move forward on 3 years. You guys done talking about it? You want to keep talking about it?
Which version option, with the redesign at the end of the 4th year or no redesign? Maybe that's where you make a determination at the end of the year, is not to do a redesign. Wait and see what you want to think at that point.
What are you saying now?
Well, that's the 2 options. You have redesign, no redesign. So if you want to leave the flexibility in the 3 years of option to leave, then you're not going to want to go ahead and get the redesign option.
How much is the redesign option? That was part of...
Redesign option is $20,000. It's actually...
That's for now.
The actual difference, if you look at it from a 1 year, is about $1,000.
Including the taking out the 5% discount.
Look at the line items right now.
8417 per year for the one without the redesign, and 94 per year for 3 years with redesign, 9497.
Oh, so the 2-3 years, okay. So it's 8417 with no redesign.
Correct. No redesign in year 4.
Or 9497 with a redesign.
Yes.
So that's a difference of
Yeah,
$1,500. No, $3,000.
3,000. It's $1,000 a year, that's what I was, yeah, it's 1,000.
And see, then again, assumes that we're gonna want it, that locks us into even a longer term, because we're gonna want them to redesign it, and then we're gonna be stuck with them for even more years. And we've never had an experience with a website like this. This is very complex, and we don't know how it's gonna work with our staff or our residents, and we're not just going from apples to apples, we're going from apples to oranges, and none of us are exactly sure how that's going to function.
What are your thoughts?
That's why we hire a company that's competent and knows what they're doing and will be able to guide us through this process.
Are you certain of that?
And
are you certain of that? Just from their proposal, you're completely sure that by reading what a company puts out is what makes you decide what their business practices are? I mean, you don't know for sure until you actually work with them and they've implemented their system. If you rely simply on a brochure or some information or a glossy salesperson statement, then not prudent.
I'm sure that 1,100 government entities can't be wrong.
Did you talk to all of them?
No, I'm sure it's like any other business. You have one or two or a couple that are going to be dissatisfied. It's like anything else. Someone missed something along the way, so it upset a person involved.
And they're locked into a three-year contract.
But again, I mean, you're going to have that. You're going to have. They could say something. You know, you could talk to every single entity, and a person could say something wrong to the person, and they're going to hate them. I mean, I've known that from my experience of going out and talking to different companies.
Right.
You could have it just because someone upset them along the way.
Well, sure, but we don't know those statistics. We can't even speak to that because there's all those people that we haven't spoken to. So I don't know how many they have good relationships with. Maybe they're all brand new customers, and all the old ones left them last year. You don't really know that. I mean, you have to use some judgment and not just believe everything that you see in writing.
Did you get a chance to go on our website and take a look at it and go through?
Yeah, and I saw that the city around here, there's 2 cities. It was very nice, but that, again, we haven't implemented it on our system yet, so we don't know how well it's going to work for us. 3 years is a very long time.
I don't think it's a long time for something like this, though. It's actually a very short period of time. Like when you commit to something like this, you take 6 months to build it, another 2.5 years. That's probably not
How
a
many
long
3-year
time.
contracts does the township enter into?
Oh, we did that with the copiers, didn't we? Or nobody looked up
I think we have our telephones are on a
multi-year contract.
and Corson and others.
Standard government contract is anywhere from 3 to 5 years.
Right.
Well, landscape and lawn mowing is now on a 2-year.
2 years? Right, that's landscaping. This is a website, an extensive, complex website.
Pepsi, it's 2 years, right?
What is it?
2 years or 3 years?
I just like some flexibility to make changes if we can, and to be able to negotiate and bargain if it's something does go wrong. And then after we implement this, we'll have a much better idea how it works, but until we've done it, we don't really know what it's going to be like.
So do you have a preference on whether or not you have to redesign at the end of the year or at the end?
I'd like, it'd be nice to know where we're going to be at in 4 years and if a redesign would be beneficial.
What was that response then? So you do favor the higher cost, the $1,000 extra more a year, so at the end of 3 years they'll redesign it?
Well, I'm trying to decide where we'd be at in 4 years if we needed a redesign. Would a community center, would that require a redesign? You know,
Timing-wise, that'd probably be just about the time that we would be considering that.
Is that included then, because did the scope of this mention that enormous prospect? I mean, or was that redesign amount based on what we're intending to do right now? Does anybody
It has Parks and Recreation module that they are building and will build to our specifications.
regardless of what it has?
Yeah.
plus you get all their upgrades too. Do you get those upgrades all for 3 years?
Yes.
And that's pretty cool.
Have you ever purchased a website before?
I know a POS, and I know how much upgrades cost.
City of Worthington uses them, City of Marysville, Grandview Heights.
And yes, I have purchased a website
Well, I'm sure not to this extent. This is a
before.
weird.
No, but your question was, have you ever purchased a
Right.
website?
You have, but have you ever purchased a complex website? I have not.
It'll be about twice.
None of us have.
Decide to purchase it at the end, so that's fine.
Yeah. I mean, you're comfortable with just doing a 3-year without a redesign? Fine with that? So that would be the
8417 per year.
and as with the Civic Plus, is that the full title?
It is Icon Enterprises Incorporated doing business as Civic Plus.
Incorporated DBA
Civic Plus.
Civic Plus.
Yes.
Icon Enterprises.
Inc.
Oh. You want me one for each one?
No, that was the original.
Okay.
That has their full title.
Now, in here, it doesn't have the actual option, though.
No, you'll do that on purchase order request.
It
Okay.
depends on what option.
Gotcha.
So it'll just be amount on the purchase order
Oh,
request.
gotcha, okay.
Okay.
So, I'd like to make a motion, the adoption of the following resolution be resolved that the Board of Township Trustees of Orange Township, Delaware County, Ohio, enter into service and license agreement with Icon Enterprises, Inc., DBA Civic Plus for provisions of service related to township website. Be it further resolved that such contract shall be in the form submitted to the board and the content of which is incorporated by reference as it fully repeated herein. Be it further resolved that Mr. Quigley shall execute such agreement and all related documents on behalf of the board. No. Oh, I'm sorry, you gave me, okay.
I was just doing
Okay, let me redo this. Okay, motion for the adoption of the following resolution be resolved that the Board of Township Trustees of Orange Township, Delaware County, Ohio, enter into service and license agreement with Icon Enterprises, Inc., doing business as Civic Plus, for the provisions of services related to township website. Be it further resolved that such a contract shall be in the form submitted to the board, the content of which is incorporated by reference is fully repeated herein, with the additions of the fiscal officer certificate in the form of Exhibit A. Hereto that the content of which is also incorporated by reference herein, and with the proviso that the 3-year term is subject to an annual appropriations of funds by the board. Be it further resolved that Mr. Quigley shall execute such agreement and all related documents on behalf of the board.
Second.
Mr. Quigley,
Yes.
Ms. Taranto,
Yes.
Ms. Knapp.
No.
So you're not in agreement with using Civic Plus?
Oh, sorry. Okay, wait.
The resolution is just saying we go into an agreement with Civic Plus
Well, when are we agreeing on the contract?
for a
On the
3-year
amount?
term. It's not saying which one yet.
No, I don't agree on the 3-year term, I wanted the 1-year term.
Okay. So your contention here is a 1-year term, okay? Just wanna make
Yeah,
sure.
that's right. I do like Civic Plus to be the best.
Okay. So next we'll move on to the purchase order. So this would be only the purchase order for the first year then, correct?
That's correct.
Which is $8,417, correct?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to authorize a purchase order to Icon, yeah, I was trying to look for it again. Icon,
Fund
I don't know why I lost it. Ah, here it is. Enter into service with Icon Enterprises, Inc., doing business as Civic Plus for provision of services, or I'm sorry, in the amount of $8,417 for provision of services related to the township website.
We have a second?
Oh, okay. You want to make a different resolution?
This one?
Let me make sure you have it here. Oh. Yeah, it's, do you need the, this is the name. And the other option is, so it's up to you.
The 84.
You get a second?
Second.
A second?
Mr. Quigley?
Yes.
Mr. Anto?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
No.
I'm sorry?
No.
Okay, moving on to accept donation of conduit. As we know, we've had some fiber being installed. We actually got some conduit donated so that we can ourselves go ahead and put it in between the fire station and the maintenance building. That way we can run fiber in that one. We're doing this work ourselves, so we're not going out and asking for an additional request from the contractor. We're just going to go ahead and trench it ourselves. So, any questions?
No. No.
Make a motion to adoption of the following resolution, whereas pursuant to RC 50510, the Board of Township Trustees may accept on behalf of the township the donation by request, devise, deed of gift, or otherwise of any real or personal property for any township use. Be it further resolved that the Board of Township Trustees of Orange Township, Delaware County, Ohio hereby accept a donation by Gunikoff Corporation of the following described property for township use. Approximately 480 linear feet of 1¼ inch conduit. Be further resolved that such property shall be classified, managed, utilized, and or disposed of as follows. Property shall be placed in township inventory for anticipated future use in the extension of the fiber optic system.
Second.
Mr. Quigley?
Yes.
Mr. Anto?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes.
Next one is a purchase order for printing company called Newsletter. Any questions?
I do have a quick question. Are we going to put that out? I thought we were going to maybe put that out on the list sometime to get other quotes from maybe local business owners. There's a few printing companies in Orange Township. I thought we discussed that a few months ago. And we don't have to do it now, obviously, but at some point I would like to do that.
In the past, Nancy has pursued other local printers and have been interested in providing the work, especially at the level of quality of work and the services that printing does, but we can always put it out again.
Where's that company located? Is it?
They have a local representative. I do believe there may be, I don't remember.
I thought they were Mount Vernon or something. I think it wouldn't hurt to put the specs on the township listserv and open an opportunity up to local businesses who might be interested in doing it. I've had a few people ask about it.
Make a motion authorization to then now purchase order to Richardson Printing Company in the amount of $3,127 for printing the fall newsletter.
Second.
Mr. Quigley?
Yes.
Mr. Anto?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes.
Next is request to release 70% of the state tax. Fiscal office, do you have anything you want to add?
No.
Any questions?
No.
I'd like to request, make a motion to request the county auditor to immediately release 75% of the township estate tax.
Second.
Mr. Quigley?
Yes.
Ms. Taranto?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes.
September 4th minutes.
Excuse me.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right, I added that, didn't I? Thanks. What do you need, a consensus essentially to say that we don't want to hold a hearing for liquor license?
Yes, and I need the application back.
Yes.
Somebody. Okay. And I'm not sure of the location. Does anyone know where that is?
Yes, it's in the shopping center next to where I am.
Oh, okay.
Oak Creek or Oak Creek.
Is there a wine?
Wine and
Great
cannabis.
addition. Wine and canvas. Wine and canvas.
Is it a wine store? or
Sounds like they'll have
shop?
wine and art.
Yeah, they have a craft night, they go and teach you how to paint while you're graduates.
Give me some interesting art.
So, would the board like to request a hearing?
I think the consensus is the board does not request a hearing.
Great, thanks.
Is that consensus?
Yes.
Yes.
Next one is approval of minutes. Any changes?
No.
A motion to approve the September 4th, 2012 minutes as presented?
Second?
Mr. Quigley?
Yes.
Ms. Taranto?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
No.
Finally, I'd like to make a motion to go to an executive session for the purpose of pending litigation, to include the board, Mr. McCarthy, Ms. Mesmer, anybody else?
No, just the board.
Yeah, with the board.
Aye.
Okay. Second?
Second.
Mr. Quigley?
Yes.
Ms. Taranto?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes.
Joel, are we ready?
Yes, sir.
You don't need that on?
No. There's no action, right?
Motion to return to regular session?
Second?
Mr. Quigley?
Yes.
Ms. Taranto?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
No other business, this means adjourned.